one of everything, at least.
At least.
At least one.
At least.
All right, it's that time. It's
know
that
that.
time.
Something got to go crazy. Then who you call?
You know that's right. You know that's right. They don't come asking questions. When they come, they take over.
Get some
Call
straight.
Solomon Jr. Okay.
Sound like one of them names, don't too.
All right. It's that time. It's that time.
Is it?
Sorry, we are late. A couple technical difficulties, but that's what happens, man. Sometimes, the bad weather, we're going to put it all on the weather. They say that's why they ain't cutting the grass, the weather. So the internet messing up because of the weather.
And
So
let
that's
the
how
cloud
we
blow
do
over.
it. Welcome to another episode of Barbershop Stories, the podcast, episode 139. And it's about time. Y'all may know him, y'all may not. But 139 is about time for you all to meet the legendary, all the way from the Gulf. You was scared to come up there. All that. Frank Woodson!
Yes, sir. Let's get it in.
Yeah, be careful. I better throw the noose on.
Throw the nuke.
I thought that looked too much like the Q's.
Now you know in Birmingham, not the blood.
Whatever we need to be. What we need to be. That's what we need to be.
I don't know, Gate City. We're going to go to Gate City, man. We just go to throw that same sign up. We're going to go run over there to Gate
Yeah.
City.
I spent a couple years in Gate City.
Oh, yeah?
I ran that school, that community center over there.
Okay.
What's up?
Yeah.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground, baby.
That's what's up, man. Well, of course, everybody who just tuning in or tuned in at 80 we wasn't there, go ahead and share it. Go on, like it. And tune in, baby. Let somebody know Frank on here. Frank Woodson, mayoral candidate of Birmingham election, August the 26th, 2025, the year of our Lord. Then we want to see what Brother Frank talking about. Frank said he fine. Frank said he got a vision for the city. He finna show y'all. He finna run this thing right. We finna see how it's being ran wrong or not ran wrong and just could use a boost or a different vision and move it in a different direction. All the above we're going to talk about today with Frank Woodson. I am comedic narrator, the haircut slanger Benny Mac, and that gentleman over there with the fresh haircut is...
Hey, no. Hey, we keep some info for you, man. And hey, y'all just sit back and check it out, man. Got another candidate aboard and finna hear what it's all about, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, first off, Frank Woodson.
Good to be here, man.
Frank Woodson.
But now I got a long history now.
Oh, yeah, that's why I did it, man, because I read your platform, and I just had to say Frank Woodson, because I got to see where we want to start from. All right, well, I think the best question is, because it's so close to election time,
Yeah.
what makes Frank Woodson qualified and just simply want to be mayor of Birmingham? Largest city in the state by volume.
Absolutely.
Now they say we run a little short on people. But
Yeah.
they ain't moving up to that about 5 minutes away to town.
We can change that, though. We can change that.
Okay.
I think I like to maybe answer it like this. What makes me the most qualified?
Okay. Okay. Start on them,
All right.
Frank. Start on
What makes
Frank.
me the
Okay.
most qualified?
All right.
When you pick a CEO to run a company or a city, you want the most qualified. You want the ones that can bring to the table what you need for this time. Birmingham's got a problem with blight, no doubt about it. I ran the state of Alabama Land Bank Authority. We created the Land Bank Authority to be able to deal with blight. I was the chairman of that. You need a leader that leads leader. On my board in Montgomery was Lieutenant Governor, the head of the House and Senate Appropriation, and the heads of all these different agencies. I lead leaders, right? I don't have scared Negro syndrome when I go into the room with white folks. I'm okay there too, and you know how that goes. I tough up in the bathroom, but I'm weak in the boardroom. I don't have to worry about that. I have led black, white, brown, and yellow. The state of Alabama Land Bank Authority, we got a problem with over 20,000 vacant houses.
In the city of Birmingham?
In the city of Birmingham.
Ooh, that's
Over
that's a lot.
20,000. The problem with this is that our mothers and grandmothers are living in neighborhoods, and those abandoned houses are now growing up, unkept, and all those things. Here's the other part. Every time you have a house on your block that is abandoned and blighted, it drops the value of every house on both sides of the street on that block by $8,400. If you live within 2 blocks, it drops it by $4,600. That means our property values are going down. That doesn't benefit us. That benefits other folks who want to move in and get our property.
Yeah.
But it also, the reason why they always cut the grass and took care of housing, because it drops the property value. That means less money for our schools, less money for potholes, less money for police and fire and infrastructure. A city is just a business, and I'm a business person. I'm an operational person. I worked in management at UPS, started on the docks, moved up, worked in operations management. Created a program for operational efficiency over there behind the airport. CEO drove from Atlanta to see it, COO, and they used it to re-engineer UPS worldwide. Not me, man, it was just God. My brothers were in the Army. I took what the Army did, brought it into UPS, and it worked. I know how to make things better, and I know how to treat people right, and that was a part of it.
Trump might call you about that one,
Well,
taking stuff from the army.
You got that right. I
Well,
wouldn't have
might
no
speak
place.
with Frank, please.
I wouldn't have no place to live. The city's not managed right. In running the city, man, what's your vision for the city? That'd be like asking me what's my vision for the barbershop. A barbershop's already supposed to run a certain way. Your stuff and your tools and everything's supposed to be taken care of the same way. Same thing with the city, y'all.
All right, so let me ask you this, brother Frank. You know, just in all fairness,
Okay.
all right, businessman, see things wrong, you can come in and offer a better solution. All right, so do you think with the current way the city is running, do you think it's intentional or lack of resources or simply just not knowing about some of the stuff that's going on?
So what do I know to be true?
Yeah.
All right. So I always start at least what I know to be true.
Tell them, Frank.
One, it's not being managed right.
Intentionally?
Well, let me say this. Let me say this. I don't know how to cut hair, but if I mess your hair up, I intentionally cut your hair, but I didn't know what I was doing.
So it's intentional.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Right?
We don't wanna hear.
Anything that a leader does, it's on him. Period. You take responsibility for it. See, I understand stuff. I understand why water floods back into the roadways. We act like it's magic. They call it the Magic City. Everything's magic. I know that if you go from 2,500 street and sanitation workers down to 500, that you might not have enough to cover the whole city. That you might not see the street sweepers going down the street. That we thought it was pretty street, but it was to keep debris out of the drains. And so when you don't have that, then the debris goes down. When the debris goes down the drain, they get clogged. And when you have nobody cleaning the drainage ditch for the water runoff, then that gets clogged and the water starts running to the street. And then our wives, our mothers start having to go into the other lane to get through the puddles, man. But it's not magic. It's just business.
There's a reason why.
So leadership is an issue. What's Birmingham sound? Every city got a sound. What's Birmingham sound?
Pow, pow. God damn it.
Right. I hate to say it. And then the siren. And then the siren comes. I live on West Side. So I've been on West Side for 26 years, y'all. I was one of those. I built my house in Shelby County. I moved into the city. Right? While others were moving out.
What about on West
41st Street West.
No, I'm trying to see what
Now you trying to see when I say I'm from Inslee, am I from the
trying-
real Inslee or am I 41st Street Inslee?
Hey, Sean Lowe said it must be two sides, man. We're trying to see. Hey, you said 41st. Is he verified over there, Tony?
41st Street
He
Inslee.
ain't
That's
know about me. He don't live it up there.
right.
Right. You just want to know. All right, you all right. You all
So
right.
he called me out, right? So most folks don't know. I'm 41st Street Inslee.
Okay. That's what's
All right.
up.
Yeah, but the deal is I moved back in, man. I moved back in because I want to be a part of my community. African proverb says a log can float in the river for 1,000 years, but it'll never be a crocodile. So I finished raising my kids in Inslee. My kids graduated in Birmingham. I made a commitment. When I left I worked in management at UPS. I left to come work full time in the city. because I wanted to be a part of the solution. If I could solve something so amazing, big as UPS, a Fortune 50 company, I said, what can I do if I came back home? What could I do if I gathered other brothers and sisters that were going to come back home? What are we going to do? I tell you what we've done. Since 2008, we've done over $300 million of resources back into our community and across the state. Over 300 million. It's almost crazy to think about, right? We brought a dropout recovery program, drop back in. We brought that in, right? Business. I studied policy. The federal government and state pays for our kids to complete their high school diploma up until the age of 21. 21.
With the school feel them.
They put them out at 16, 17, but they never had to be out there. All that time, they never had to go work at the sweatshops of UAB, but nothing. And then once they hit about 24, 26, they don't move up anymore. And so they just stuck there, right? They never had to. So we brought that program, and the state has it, to where you can set up places throughout the city, not in the schools, but in a church, in a barber. If you got a classroom, set it up. So that's what we did for the school system. We set them up, and kids drop back in, and they need a lot just need 1 credit.
Yeah.
Some just needed to pass a portion on the exit exam, and they've been deadlined on the side. I'm passionate about people, man. So I try, right?
They don't break out crying now, Frank.
Yeah, I ain't gonna break out crying,
break
man.
out
If I do,
crying.
I gotta fight. I'm just letting
Yeah,
you
I
know.
ain't gonna say yeah,
I'm just saying. Hey,
Good
look.
for it. Look up.
If I do, I gotta fight. So I'm sizing y'all up right now. I'm just saying, bruh. Yeah, I might have to go this way.
Yeah.
All right. Look, guys, they never had to. Over 500 kids just drop back in and finish because we built a bridge for them. I started looking for ways. What I did in improving UPS, I started doing in our communities. I saw that thing, man. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. Hey, Dad, I graduated. I got this. You remember that United Negro College Fund? So what I did. So this is what I said. If they got colleges out there that have money, and we got kids over here that need money, you just bring those folks together. So since this year, we brought 82 colleges, universities, over 1,000 students down to the Civic Center. Gave out $14 million in scholarships, and nobody knows about it. And we've done that. We had $100 million since 2012.
It's a nice budget.
We didn't need the credit for it. We gave it to the school. Our kids who didn't know how they were going to pay for college got the money to go to college. But every kid's not going to college.
Yeah.
So we struck a deal with the trade unions, skilled trade unions. And they come too for those kids that are not going to go to college. Show apprenticeship programs, how you going to work with your hands. We brought them down there too. But we didn't stop there. There are kids that take CTE programming and health sciences programming and the like in high school, but they don't have nowhere to go. So we did a deal with the junior college system so that by the time they graduate, they know where they're going to go. So if they wanted to cut hair, they met the folks from the barber, and they made folks from all the different disciplines there. This is not hard. It's just what we do when you care about people.
So it's safe to say that I was looking over your platform, like Benny said too, and I read a lot about young people and education and scholarships and different things on that too. So, and you're mentioning a lot about it now. So it's safe to say that education would be one of your top priorities.
Well, you know what the
School system, public school system.
I tell you why, because it's part of economic development. Usually, most mayoral candidates tell you, "Oh, mayor don't have nothing to do with public education." That's what they tell you. A leader has something to do with everything that he needs to have. That's important to your city. We gotta care about it. But the priority right now in Birmingham, one is leadership, and then the second is management. Right? Management, how we make things happen, how we make them run. And right now, Birmingham's not very well managed. Birmingham has 154 square miles. The formula says for that, not JoJo, not somebody over there on the side. The formula said that they need at least 900 police officers. And what do we have? Under 400 patrolling. There have been times on the west side we only had 3 or 4 folks patrolling the whole west side of Birmingham. In other words, when some pop off at night over on the west side where I live, you on your own. You can call 911. I didn't believe it, but a lot of times you get the answer machine when you call 911.
So yeah, leave a message. They over here shooting. All right. Call me.
And so I listen to folks. And I tell you this, black folks don't have no problem squealing, talking about no snitch. We'll tell when we want to tell. I don't know, right? But I understand something. I hear gunshots coming from my neighbor's house across the street. I know she got kids right around the corner. I call the police. The police come. My neighbor come around the corner, knock on my door, called out the name that my phone was registered in, because you know our phone not registered in our name. Right, called out that name, gave me the phone number, gave me the address, and said 911 gave it to her. Right? And I've said to every police chief for the last five police chiefs, for the last 15 years, you give us a secured number. We don't have no problem calling. But when Mother Jackson calls you and she's 65 and she's saying they're over here shooting again 2 doors down, the police can't go to her door because you let her know that she's the one that called.
They say Grandma Pearl the snitch.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying what they say in the hood.
Yeah, I'm just saying. And so the deal is that there's not a trust between the police in Birmingham.
All right, well, let me ask you this, bro,
Yeah,
Frank, because I know the question a lot of times, or the statements being made, is always saying we need more police officers, we're going to fight crime and all that. So let's just say Frank Woodson, boom, win Birmingham mayor, August 26th, 2025. All right, if or when you get more officers, the main objective and the main reason why they leave is because of the conditions and money.
Right.
What incentives would you have, or what would you do different to try to retain your police department?
Only in politics do they ask a question like that, right? Only in politics. Everybody else has to compete for employees. The best barbers, you got to compete for them. The best hairdressers, you got to compete for them. It's just so foreign to me when I hear people say, I run a city, but I can't hire enough people. Where else can you work? And you are the manager of that place, and you can't hire enough people, and you still keep a job for longer than 6 months. Well, I mean, I just want to know, because I'm telling y'all, this I want to call it a Birmingham thing, man. I don't know. Maybe it's like this at every place else. But look, where else can you work? You compete for the employees. There was a reason why they paid $20 an hour in the Ivy League school area to work at McDonald's. They're competing for employees. What do we need to do to get the best force? Not those that have been kicked off the other forces for abuse and flexing and power. Those are power trips. What do we have to pay to get the best officers to come? And you prioritize that. Officers that understand community policing, that their job is not. I think I heard a commissioner say, well, you know, that's the police job to arrest and prosecute people. I wonder, that's their job? We're dealing with mental illness out here. We're dealing with prevention. We're dealing with keeping kids going the right way, with having visibility, and that's their job? That's not the job we want for our police, man. It's a priority. You hire them. You compete for them. You go after them. That's the way you do it.
They offer a decent salary where I don't have to have a second job.
Salary and bennies.
Yeah, benefits.
And we can go further. We can give them a house too. We got 20,000 of them.
Yeah, 20,000 vacant lot.
And then we got the vacant lots. They don't need to be. Look, y'all, we have the opportunity for the largest wealth transfer into our community perhaps in the history of being in the United States. Here's what I understand. If we got 20,000 houses, we can take those houses with the land bank. We can clean them up, remove the liens, remove the back taxes, and we can say to your son, instead of going over to Homewood and paying $1,100-$1,200 for a 1-bedroom, we'll give you a home. You go through the home ownership program. We'll give you the home, and your mortgage will be the rehab on that house. Do y'all understand the opportunity that we have? Instead of just letting a few of your friends, brothers, in-laws, and outlaws get the fees from the legal and the real estate, trying to make money off of everything instead of cleaning up our communities.
So they got the opportunity to, they just don't.
Brother,
Okay, I am, man.
it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm telling you. See, so this is the dirty secret.
So let me
That's
ask,
the 20,000 and a half.
now let me ask you this, Brother Frank. I see in 2016 you was on the Alabama State Land Bank Commission. So,
Yes.
So basically, for those that don't know, break down actually what the land bank is and what it does. Because believe it or not, a lot of people that had these discussions, and I know what it is. I'm sure the gentleman that's going to ask you some questions, he'll know what it is. But for some of our listening audience, they heard of what it is and don't actually know what it is. Could you expound a little bit on that?
I can, and I tell you, it came about in 2008 after the economic crisis. We had a lot of foreclosures. I worked with the Obama administration in helping to buy these foreclosures. So they gave me a lot of money to buy foreclosures and flip them, put people in the houses, that kind of deal. That's how you stabilize a community. And then the state of Alabama started looking at, well, if you stabilize it, then we need to figure out a way, how in the world do we keep the blight out as well? So we started the Alabama Land Bank Authority. That means that every tax delinquent property in the state of Alabama falls under the Land Bank Authority. The Revenue Department down in Montgomery owned all of the tax delinquent properties. That's why they go to the state for tax deeds and all of that. So we started the land bank to create a clearinghouse. That means that if you start a land bank in Birmingham, in Bessemer, in Fairfield, then the goal would be that they would do the work of the clearinghouse in their cities. That means that they would wipe out the liens, the back taxes, all of those things. If you got a lot next to your house, I'd say, look, you take care of it for a year, it's yours. That's the way it's supposed to work. You got a house right here, wipe out the back taxes and lien, make it available to nonprofit housing developers or people that are going to build affordable houses for other folks. That's what they were supposed to do. So now, the land bank, as of last year, has told every city in the state that you can get any house that we have up here for like $100.
You heard about that one.
No, you're not going to hear about
You
it,
heard about that one.
right? So that means that every city in Alabama can request the tax deed from Montgomery for the house. Wherever house they want, property, and y'all see all the abandoned houses all over Fairfield, all these places. They can request them. There should be the opportunity for the largest wealth transfer. We didn't get the GI Bill way back in it. You know, they did all that building after World War II. Black people didn't participate in that, y'all.
Question.
Yes, sir.
I hear what you're saying. How do you put something, is there a capability to put something in place that accounts for the human element? Because I happen to deal in tax lien houses. And when the land bank came, we thought that was a great thing. But the issue that I ran into is I visited the land bank over 20 times and went down there, nobody.
Went down there, nothing.
Or now we're looking at a situation like with the city, they used to give you out the information
Right.
with the plots and the lots
That's
going
right.
down into address.
Right.
Now they won't even supply that.
See, that's part of the problem, bro.
Yeah, because I used to go directly through the state.
Correct.
And I used to drive down to Montgomery.
Now they blocking, right?
Now, well, it ain't been Montgomery. It's the city.
That's what I'm talking
That's
about.
blocking.
Correct.
Yeah, so there was houses, over there on the west side when you go up, when you're coming up Bush Boulevard, right before you get on the expressway. There's a bunch of those houses right up
Yes.
there that were on the land bank that we put applications in and we never received any
Correct.
any information, nothing.
Correct. So it wasn't supposed to be that way. Birmingham decided to make it that way. See, they decided that they're going to assign it to an attorney, and the attorney's going to work on the clear title. It's going to hit you for $7,500, no matter how long it takes them to do it.
And most of the time, that don't take long.
All right,
Ain't
but,
nobody
but,
else.
but here the other problem. The redemption rate on tax properties is 3%. Means 97% of the time it's not even a problem. 97. If you could take $100,000 and win 97% of the time, how many times would you put it out there?
Yeah.
It's unnecessary. See that right now they're like the hog under the apple tree. All they can't eat, they're gonna wallow in it. Block you from getting it. Let investors come in and then board it up and just wait till the property values drop all around and then buy all the rest of them. We're gonna put a stop to that, man. We're gonna get with the council. We're gonna have a rental property inspection program put in. And what that does is says that every house has to be kept at 2022 International Property Code standard. That means that people can't buy a property and just let it sit there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and the land bank not take it back and put it back out for redevelopment. Ms. Millie shouldn't have to look at that. And y'all, some of y'all think it's all right out there for that to happen. Like you just don't care. But if it was your mama's house and somebody just left the house sitting there, grass overgrown, if it sit there too long, raccoons gonna start moving in, right?
But Frank, couldn't that be that is the city currently just not enforcing codes? Because it is codes in place for that, right? To say, hey man, you don't cut this grass and keep this up, they can fine
for
you.
the weed abatement there is, but not for the house.
Not for the house
So
itself.
what kills us is that if you get like a bad Section 8 tenant or landlord, there's nothing you really do. You're handcuffed as a neighborhood, and so because you can't go to, don't worry about it, you can't go to housing authority. They say that's not my house. The people don't own it. But with a rental property inspection program, it'll hold the landlord accountable for keeping the house just at a good standard. So it's two different things. There's that one for the rental, but for these vacant properties that people come in and they buy them in masses from out of state, and you make money. The land bank. The goal isn't to make money with the land bank. And then the investors from out of state, they just play the market. They're just going to market. They just let them sit there. And then eventually, if you're on the west side, I don't know what they're doing. What they doing on the east side? They burn them down over on the west side.
Burn them down, stay
Right.
in them.
And
vandalize them,
then we want to blame it on all the homeless folks, right? Oh, that's homeless folks. No, y'all. Our city is shrinking. We're number 3 right now. Montgomery's 500 behind us. We'll be the 4th largest city.
I think they number
In
4.
Alabama.
I think they number 4.
We already there. You already there.
Yeah, y'all done,
All right.
Y'all done came up a little bit.
Yeah,
man.
just a little bit to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, y'all done came.
Right.
I believe
So-
they're number 4.
So look, we can fix it. You want to make these houses available. Do the transfer of wealth. Clean up our community. Let our seniors be able to retire in peace where they live. Put the properties back out. Here's what I would like to do, man. I'd like to take those houses.
Hold on. Barbershop Stories, the podcast, episode 139. It's about time to listen to what Frank got to say. Go ahead, back to you, Frank.
All right. I want to take those houses. I want to take X number of houses, 10 houses, 5, 10 houses at a time, and utilize our local. You read between the lines. Utilize our local contractors to be able to do these houses. Knock out those 10, we give you the next 10. Let's put our local contractors to work.
Put that
Right.
wealth back in your pocket.
Okay? But don't stop there. If you put in an apprenticeship program to teach young men, pay them at least $15 an hour, we'll pay half of their salary for 6 months to a year. So I'm gonna give you a chance to be able to
make
make
some
profit so you can reinvest back into your business so that you can grow. Put the administrative help you need and all that kind of stuff. You can save money that way. So now we remove blight, building wealth, contractors making money, young men making money, so that for those that are ready for that road out, they can get there. We can work them by day. We can put them in. We can put them in the union skilled union trade, or we're going to put the junior college programs in the community, just like they do in Houston, so that you don't have to travel all the way to Lost State, or you don't have to travel all the way over there to Jeff State. We can put them in all 9 districts as we need them, and they'll be able to get those courses just like that. Oh yeah, I know.
That was my next question.
Uh-huh.
Because we were talking about education.
Yes, sir.
And do you think that we'll be able to go back to a position where we taught those trades in school like we did before?
So, I don't know, man. I just made a decision that as a man, as a leader that lives in the community, I'm going to applaud the school system for what they do, and then I'm going to manage the gap. We can't wait no more on the school system to put trades back in the school. If that's not going to happen, I'm not going to spend another year talking about this is what the school ought to do. We're going to figure this thing out. And so if the solution is there, I talked to the folks in the junior college system. They said, yes, we'll do that. Brother, you can work during the day, go to school at night. We can't force minimum wage to go up. So what do we do next? Because the red folks, Republican folk, ain't going to allow it to happen, us to raise. So what do? We put these opportunity centers into the community. Because you got sisters that are out there working to take care of the kids, the house, all of that. They working hard on their job, but they're not working on their dream. So what would happen if they could work on their job during the day and work on their dream at night and go into these opportunity centers and be able to skill up? See, we know what the cheat code is now. Skill up, certification, skill up. And then make them have to compete to keep her or allow her to leave and earn more money. Maybe they want to be an entrepreneur. Well, we already built a nonprofit that is Central Alabama that's about to become statewide. It's called the Central Alabama Redevelopment Alliance, right? We have a direct relationship with the Small Business Administration. I'm the chairman of that board. Because when we go to get loans, they look for people that qualify for the bank loans oftentimes. Not all banks, but some banks do. We have a hard time getting loans. Mm-hmm. So what are we going to do? We're going to itch and moan about it? We're going to do something. So we partnered with the SBA and we did a Linda Match program with the SBA. So every 3 to 4 months, we bring in a couple 300 small businesses and match them for these SBA loans that they can't seem to get in other places. And they start having the income to grow their businesses. When the small businesses grow, then you hire people out of the community. Now money begins to circulate back in the community because your business is successful. Do a partnership, not only with the SBA, but with the college system that comes in and say, okay, I mean, you got a model here. You ready to franchise this thing? Mm-hmm. Yes. Good. Bring in people that sit and work with you and give you a business plan for if you want to do this. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about stuff. I'm doing it. Right? I'm looking at the city. I'm saying this isn't hard. This isn't hard at all. There's 7 things basically that a city does. We act like it's magic. It's not magic.
It's just the fact of just doing it.
Every city. This is how city starts. Hey guys, we're growing. We're here. This is the town hall meeting. We up to 400 now. Billy Joe got some grandkids. They ain't acting right, and so he drink, beat his wife. He ain't acting right. We need a sheriff to keep the peace. So you hire police. A couple houses burned down. Then you create a fire department. You know what? We want paved roads, and I'm not ready to start paving no road. So we need somebody to look out for the public spaces, for the parks and the this and those kind of things, and cut those roads and patch the roads.
Go get what you need.
Here you go. Let's go with it. Go, bring it on.
Well, let me piggyback on that education part. And when we get to talking about education is complex, but it's not complex at all. And it has an underlying bedrock factor, which, if you look at it correctly, everything springs from it. The economics of a community, the education of the community is all related. So if you're elected mayor in August, we will say in August,
Yes.
around, would you advocate for the dismissal of the abolishment of the public school system?
Let me tell you, absolutely not. And I'll tell you why. I ran a school a couple blocks from here called Cornerstone Schools. Cornerstone is a voucher school, right? I traveled around the country and I studied these voucher schools. They were kind of a forerunner to a charter school. And the voucher schools and charter schools don't fare any better than the public schools on percentage of success and failure. And the predeterminer to whether that school was successful was leadership. What we would tolerate and what we wouldn't. Whether or not you're going to bring a superintendent in and you handcuff him or her, or the board's going to say, run this thing, clean it up and give me a world-class school system. There are people that leave this place, Birmingham City Schools, crying because they don't have the opportunity to really do their job because of friends, brothers, in-laws, and outlaws, right? We should be able to have the public school system that we want with excellent principal leadership. And the support staff in the central office. I've worked with every superintendent except for one. One of them wanted me and my organizations to come up underneath this white organization that was created. And we do more work than they do. And we put more money into families and households than they do. So what we did, we went and we started working with Fairfield and Midfield, and we created with Fairfield and Midfield, we created a paid apprenticeship program between those schools and the suppliers for Honda called Career Launch Alabama. Those kids were making more money leaving school, going down into work at Flexing Gate and all these places than their parents were making. Why they were still in school. We left Birmingham. We did it over here in Fairfield, Midfield, and started taking it to other schools. And then Birmingham decided to start one with the current mayor, and they took $2 million away from the school system to start it.
Okay, now with that said, of course, I started my question by saying that education and economics are closely tied.
You can't have economic development without a good education system.
So when we start looking at the overall conditions of our community, and we look at the talented 10 or few, whatever we want to call them, and they take their equity resources and they move out of our community, the black community, and they leave the others in the community destitute and struggling. And so that's why I'm bringing you back to education again. Because education, all of the education all around this country comes from a white supremacy perspective. So now the question to you is that what is the difference between having a cultural education and a public school education, or charter school if you want to throw that in there, or even a parochial school education? What is the difference from your perspective?
So all education is subsidized. There is no free education. All education is subsidized. The private schools, all of those subsidized. The corporate, when you walk in their hallways, you'll see Alabama Power and all these big things. It's subsidized. The biggest difference is leadership. A lot of people would say money. I've worked closely with the Birmingham City School System. I wrote their core values. I trained their leadership in change management. I worked on the mission statement and talked about and helped them lead differently. I've looked closely at them. Birmingham's greatest problem wasn't a money problem at first. It was the fact that Birmingham tried to maintain two separate school systems. Birmingham had a black school system and a white school system. You had two high schools, one black, one white. Inslee, Jackson Olin. You had two high schools. Then they started letting some black folks go to Inslee. So we fell in love with Inslee, the white school system, and we fell in love with the black school system. And because of that, we played politics for the longest. And even though we didn't need two high schools in Inslee, we kept them anyway. Because you had board members that they played politics with them. So that put a strain on the school system. And no one had the business, whatever, or the testicular fortitude to step up and do what needed to be done. And if I perish, let me perish. If I get fired, fire me next time. Remove me. And that put a strain on. And we almost lost our school system. It was taken over. That also meant that we were so spread out. Again, that's leadership, man. The people that moved out of the city, they took their resources. Did they really? They got a good job. They moved out. What resources did they take? They weren't investing in the school. Schools paid for by taxes. Yes, they weren't available to serve on the board. But most of us that were in corporate, we don't serve on boards because we don't want to deal with politics.
You get a lot of people that say that it's always said that most of the schools outside of Birmingham public schools have donors, or the parents there, they donate for most of the stuff that happens that you probably see in a school system outside of the Birmingham public school system. That's why they have this, because the parents come together and donate this and donate that. But basically what you're sitting here saying is pretty much saying that's not
they have the support.
Totally true.
I
say totally true.
I can't say it well. They had the support of the power structure.
So it still falls back to the leadership of that city more so than it does those parents coming out of their pocket to make
because
things happen.
The mayor is the one. Wherever the mayor looks, that's where the corporations look. Wherever the foundations look, that's where the mayor looks, that's where the foundations look. So if the mayor don't give a care about stuff that's happening, the corporations don't have to give. What they do? So they give to other places. You go out to their ball field, you see Regions and Alabama Power and Allegasco. You see all of those things on there. You know why? Because the parents who are in leadership, then they influence where the dollars go. And then they come back and they start a school foundation or a parents foundation, Friends of Woodlawn.
Okay. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time.
You're fine, man. I'm okay answering the question.
But I have another one for you here.
Yeah.
As you ride down the thoroughfare, First Avenue, Parkway, just about anywhere, we have we're in a crisis situation right now. we have transitory people coming into this area, and most of them are bought in under the guise of some type of charity, some of these big charities, and also some of the local charities, churches too, bringing transitory people in here. And as you can see, underneath the bridges, you got hobo camps springing up all along the thoroughfares. You got hobo camps popping up everywhere, and they're bringing drugs, crime, prostitution, and a whole host of other problems within our community. And most of all, they're stealing resources from the people that live in those communities. So if you walk down the street and you stop and ask 5 of them where did they come from, they'll tell you, well, I'm not from here. I'm not from this community. I'm from wherever, maybe Brookside or Vestavia, Trustville. And the problem I see, and the way I see it, is that it's not being addressed by our leaders. This problem is going on, it's just multiplying.
Why do you think I should be able to answer that?
Well, as a candidate for that position, I would like to know if you, as elected the mayor, can I hold you responsible? Because, see, I like to come to you and knock on your door and say, hey, Mr. Woodson, you said you would take care of this problem. This
Yes,
problem
sir.
has multiplied
Yes, sir.
in my community. What are you going to do about it?
Yes, sir. All right, that's fair then.
And because I say, and I believe that anybody that's in a elected office, you work for me.
Okay,
It's not
well,
the other way around.
then I'll answer your question then. I think that's fair. I left mega church world and I moved into 5 Point South. God said, go to 5 Point South. I went to 5 Point South. I said, there's no place. I looked all around. There's no place for a church. And then a place opened up in the old Pickwick Conference Center. And I moved in there for 7 years. I said, no problem. I can grow a church over here. I got a big Rolodex I'm going to do it. God said, no, I want you to walk among the people in 5 Point South and let them teach you how to love. So I moved over there and I moved in. And I became Pastor Frank for all those folks. There was some of everything. And I began to learn and they taught me how to love. Right? And I began to see them. Birmingham has a huge, and so big part of that over there, you wake up in Pickwick Conference, in that little area, Pickwick Plaza, and people laying around, young black girls, white girls, Asian girls, drunk on the elevators and the decks and all of that. Birmingham has, you gotta talk this freedom, right?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Barbershop Stories Podcast, episode 139. It's about that time that we listen to Frank Woodson. And back to you, Frank.
So there are businesses that have moved out of downtown Birmingham because of the homeless situation. There are businesses that are waiting till their leases are up to move out of downtown Birmingham because of the homeless situation. They're pissed off with the mayor because the mayor put so much money into the LGBTQ community. He built a 24, 40-room place for them going down 2nd Avenue north towards the west side. Even though the data said that there were less than 5 homeless queer people in Jefferson County, they still built the place. And they said, through their actions, the hell with the homeless. I studied a lot about the homeless when I lived on South Side for 7 years, lived with them, those that were addicted, those so-called crazy, whatever, that were out there. I found out we give them names so that we don't have to care about them, but it's somebody's daughter, somebody's son, right? Somebody's mother, brother. White women from Homewood who left their children and out there on the street with their boy, right? Following him in drugs. Probably 70-some% of the homeless people are dealing with addiction.
Well, let me interrupt you right there. Is it the responsibility of the peoples of Birmingham to take care of
Yes, sir.
all the other folks' problems? Because you go to Mountain Brook and you don't see hobo encampments.
So let me tell you why. Because they drop them off here.
They drop them
right? You were starting it earlier, so we're going to talk about it because you asked where they were from and they told you where they were from. And so all across Jefferson County, you'll see those white SUVs and black SUVs pull up. People will get out right there on 20th Street North, a block or two from the bus station. They'll get off right there by the little pier underpass, and the police will, there are some cops that will drop them off in the same place every other week or every month or as they pop up. And they'll get out and they'll do this thing like they're in a foreign land. They'll have their little rolling suitcase and their coat and bag, and they'll stand and they'll look around. I guess being in the big city, right? And they'll be there. So right now, you're talking about over here, downtown is the same way, except we have no police presence in downtown Birmingham. I have an office in downtown. We don't have any police presence in downtown. There's no police presence on South Side. There's no police presence in Lakeview. So usually the way it goes.
But let me inject again.
Uh-huh.
And see, and you're absolutely right.
I'm just telling you.
Absolutely right now.
Okay.
But our government helped to fund this type of activity by giving money to these charities. And I don't want to call out the name.
No.
But, we got 3 or 4 big charities, and then we got some churches.
Brother, I'm gonna tell you something. That's part of it. It's part of it. But they don't give any money to black charities. So let me be clear. They ain't giving a lot of money to black charities. All right? We got so many people downtown. So many people here. So many people on the west side. You remember UAB, folks used to get dropped off from UAB and there'd be people sleeping in the hospital gown. It's despicable. As a mayor, I'm responsible for that. Once they get here, I'm responsible. It's not, let me say, to figure out a solution to it and not to make it the new normal.
Okay. But tell me 2 things that you would do to discourage it, to stop it all again.
The first thing, so we stop the other cities from doing that. We know how they do it. If I see it, you see it, then we know how it's done. There was a whole new group that just came into Birmingham from Atlanta. Brother, how you get here, man? I stop and talk to. I'll sit down and eat. I'll eat with them. Come on, let's sit down and have a meal. I want to know your story. Yeah, I came from Atlanta. I said, well, how you get here? They bought me a ticket.
Oh, so they just shipping them out.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know why? It's what you said earlier. They know who to talk to. They talk to the right one, the wrong one, they get the skull cracked. You see it all the time. Crazy Joe walk down the street, but when he get over the Big Willie, he stop cussing, he stop hollering, and he walk all the way across the street, go back around him, go down the block and start hollering, cussing, and fussing, right? When people see that they can just do whatever they want to you, they do it. And Birmingham's done nothing to deter that. Nothing. If I can see that SUV on 20th Street between First Avenue and whatever that Division Avenue is right there, dropping the folks off year after year. If I could see the folks coming on the bus to 5 Points South and they dropping them off at the 5 Points South shopping center, and they're just wandering. They go into the vacant houses and all that. So here's what we do. 1, you got to hold people accountable. 2, we've got to have a plan. It's not just...
What people you talking about holding accountable?
We got to hold the other cities around the county accountable for bringing their homeless folks and just dropping them off.
Well, how about let's just take them back?
Just drop them out.
And we take them back.
Yeah, so that's what I would do, but that's not what a mayor would do.
Remember, the mayor works for us.
I do. I understand that, right? Right. Go ahead, brother.
Let me tell you that I'm a neighborhood officer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Been a neighborhood officer for a long, long time, over 20 years.
Yes, sir.
And I've been dealing with this issue for a long time. Let me tell you what actually happened. those people just don't come here, just be dropped off here. They're invited here. Oftentimes we have a lot of these nonprofits that set up. They say you come here, we're gonna offer you a meal, a place to stay, different things like that. They come over here, they sign the book, then now they grant money because they got signatures there. The city allows this to happen because those particular places, they fund them folks. They fund the organizations.
Okay.
Now, the neighborhood association have to deal with all of these homeless people, the prostitutes, the
That's
drug
right.
addicts, and all of that. We get $2,000 a year to deal with that.
Correct.
Those nonprofits that the city of Birmingham give money to, in order for them to come here and wander the streets, because they done the same thing in Norwood. What happened to all the homeless people that was in Norwood? They used to be loaded with it. They over there half medicated, used to walk up and down the street, used to scare the hell out of it.
Where they at?
And then now they gone.
They policed them out of there.
Well,
And the thing of it is that you have to find, we know who these organizations are. If we don't start holding those organizations accountable, this problem gonna always exist.
Brother, so let me say this right here. Nobody said anything. We all sat quietly, most of us in Birmingham, and didn't say anything. When this mayor sent $1.75 million to a homeless group in San Francisco to work with the homeless in Birmingham.
I didn't say this. They ain't got
Hold on. Hold on. So, is this what we doing? So let's go. Let me take my jacket off in a minute, right?
we talk about resources now.
Hold on. I'm talking about cash,
Exactly.
dollars.
Coming out of our community.
$1.75 million. Why are you running for mayor? Because with $1.75 million,
a lot of money.
what we could have done here locally to build a broader capacity to get the folks from under the bridge. We know that the majority of the brothers and sisters coming out of the state prison, that the majority of them are coming back to Birmingham. We know that. We know that.
But you talked about, and other people talked about, not just you.
Go ahead.
That make Birmingham attractive. We're gonna set up this program where people that are getting out of prison, Danny Carr and all of them. Oh, when you get out of prison, we're gonna help you get a job. We're gonna do this. Come to Birmingham. Well, we have people, we have kids right now in Birmingham. I'm not talking about you now. I'm just saying in general, this is what's happening. Is that when those people, when you adopt all of these people into Birmingham and stuff, these people who've been playing it straight, who've been doing the thing, going to school, sometimes they struggle in school, sometimes they just struggling in life. When do they get an opportunity? When do we set up programs to help those people?
That's what I'm doing. That's how. Hold on. Let me just say that.
Because
hold on. If you were listening to me, the first part, the opportunities I talked about were for the working people that want to move up, home ownership and owning their own land, right? That's an opportunity that a lot of our folks didn't get till they were in their 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yes.
Okay? We're talking about now in your 20s, 30s, being able to own real estate, your name on it, have that's going to appreciate immediately, because we're going to wipe out the acquisition cost and your mortgage is going to be the cost of the rehab. We're talking about our local contractors. I don't need to be no more plainer than that, do I? I don't need to be more plainer.
You're good.
Our local contractors, because of their participation in the home ownership program, we can give priority to them doing the work. We got 20,000 houses, but 10 at a time. Come back and get the next 10. But we're going to ask you to be a part of our workforce development program, and that is to take our young men that are unemployed and give them jobs, an apprenticeship. In return, I know where the dollars are to pay for half of their salaries for up to 6 months to a year. And if it's the right person, it'll pay for all their salary for the first 6 months. If you understand how the process and the system work. Now look, so we didn't clean up the neighborhood. We didn't increase the value. We didn't increase home ownership. We have put contractors to work. We have created an apprenticeship job, and jobs for our young men, and we increased the property values of every house on that block by $8,400, meaning more money for our schools, more money for our roads, more money for our police, fire, and street.
Now let me ask you this: going back
and all these folks, and then I came back and said that we're doing a deal with the junior college system. Y'all remember when you had what you call it in Birmingham, night school?
Yeah, we got night school.
Right? So we're going to put it back in, but with junior colleges, so that our kids, so that our young folks that are working a working class job can skill up, because the people that have them aren't going to pay them higher wages. They don't have their diploma. They don't have this. So we're going to move those. If that's we'll move them like we've always done. What other hurdle are you going to throw? They need certification. Well, we'll put certifications in the community. They won't have to go to the junior college. We'll bring them into each district.
If these folks these kids go through these apprenticeship programs like you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Once they finish those apprenticeship programs, or during the time that they learning the so-called skills, where are they going to work? And let me say this. I'm a tradesman myself. I'm a sheet metal mechanic by trade. Over 30, almost 40 years in trade. You never hear people who've been in the trade like I have been.
Yes.
Talk about young people learning the trade. You know why?
Why?
It's the way they treat it. You don't, the reason why, the same way you was talking about, we low on police officer here. And we low on people in trades now because of the way they treat it. Now they can make
I'm just asking the way they treat it. Who is they?
When I'm talking about trade, I'm talking about the employers.
You said the way they treat it.
I'm talking about the employers.
Okay.
Employers are the they.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you can make a lot of money in trades, but you may work 6 months.
That's
and
right.
They're gonna lay you off for 3 months.
That's right.
That's when you teach them to be entrepreneurs.
Absolutely, but everybody can't be an entrepreneur.
That's true, but that entrepreneur can hire him and be fair to he or she.
Okay, I got you on that about the entrepreneur thing. But here's the thing: everybody's not going to do it because you can start whatever kind of
But I like what you
business
said.
you want to, but you can't compete with them.
But let me say this: I like what you said, and I just gave you some examples right now on how to have these guys continually working in small businesses, in strengthening our contractors and small businesses to be able to hire more people. We got to grow our small business sector. I told you how I'm growing the small business sector right now through a strategic relationship with the Small Business Administration, with the business schools of our major colleges and universities, and that we're doing classes and business accelerators and all these different pieces, skilling our businesses up and seeing them grow and bringing on more of our people and hiring them. We got to create our jobs. We got to make sure that our transportation system works in a way that makes sense for us, so that if we need it, what do you call that thing that goes straight out there, a beeline? If we need a beeline to go out to the industrial area where the warehouses are, then that's what we do. Because mobility is an issue for real with our kids that live here. If you are in business, this isn't hard stuff, guys. It's not. If you don't have lotion in here, half your folks not gonna come. What you gonna have in here next week?
Well, one, I don't know too many bars that rub lotion on folks.
Ah!
That's one. Maybe the clip. No, just kidding.
I didn't say baby oil. I said lotion. Now if I said baby oil, you can flex, man. But right? Hey, look. So look. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to accept responsibility for the homeless solution. You know why? Me and my brother, man, we're down in the gum. We had nothing to do that summer, so we wanted to build a tree fort. So we saw this construction site and wood laying all around. So we go over there every evening, pour a little bit more wood and build it. One day the detective knocked on the door. Had these 2 white detectives knocking on the door. They said, we're from the police. They said, is the man of the house at home? They said, well, it's been reported that a couple of young black boys have been stealing wood from the construction site. I learned something then. My father said, I'll take care of that. I'll have him take the wood back, and I'll deal with it. He didn't create the problem, but men solved the problem. So when we start doing this little stuff that we do in Birmingham, and we say the homicide rate high, it's not the mayor's fault. It's not the mayor's fault. Mayor get on TV. It's not his fault. Then he start blaming the single mamas. The alley, they ain't taking care of the kids. Betty Ann ain't taking care of her children and all of that. I don't understand that. Because as a leader, I accept and take responsibility, not for causing the problem, but for the solution. But then all of a sudden, the crime rate dropped, and it's the mayor's fault. I don't understand.
You gonna take the praise and
But no, you got to come. I accept and take responsibility. That's what leaders do, brother. It's on me. I'm responsible on my watch, and we are responsible on our watch to solve our problems.
So Frank ever work again, Birmingham got to invest back into Birmingham. Birmingham been investing in everything but Birmingham.
So here you go again. In order for Birmingham to work, we got to hold.
We got to invest back into Birmingham.
Hold on. No, we have to hold people accountable. See, you can't be my friend if you spit on my mama. You can't be my friend if you assault my brother. You can't be my friend if you send $1.75 million to San Francisco to work with our homeless. Send $600,000 to Chicago to work with our young people in school talking about conflict management. Send another $600,000 to Newark, New Jersey, another $600,000 to DC, another $600,000 to Plainsville, Florida, another almost $2 million over to Atlanta for people to come over here and paint Miss Jenny's house. Pride Atlanta or House Pride Atlanta to come paint Miss Jenny's house. That's money that was $12 million the last 6 months of 2024 that bypassed our whole community. So if we say that you got to invest in Birmingham. If you come, you say, oh, well, look, I'm going to keep voting for the same mayor. Bro, I don't even want to talk to you no more. If you're going to vote for this current mayor and he just bypassed the whole city with $12 million, that's just a nonprofit.
So I hear you.
Hold on. I haven't even got to the for-profit. We can't have it both ways, y'all. If we got a problem with it, then we got to have a problem with it.
Yep.
The neighborhood association getting $2,000 a year.
Yeah, but you know what, man? Look here, we either need to build a neighborhood association for real or we need to disband it. Hold on, I want you to hear me out. If the city is going to value it, then we need to build it for real. And we need to invest in it.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm just saying. But this thing that we're doing, putting it on 2 to 3 to 5 to 7 to have to maintain it, and you on your own, you went from 10,000 to 2,000, right. And then you got to fight and beg to get that out.
So let me ask this.
Can I finish him with that one thing?
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So here's what I want to do. I want to revamp the neighborhood association. I read the charter for what it's supposed to do. There's certain things y'all do that you're not really chartered to do. I want to put a nonprofit in every area. And I want to connect the businesses that are in your districts to put money into that nonprofit so that you can actually pay people to lead in some of the work in cleaning your communities and dealing with things and actually build a nonprofit. I built 4 statewide nonprofits. Largest one is $25 million a year.
I can see a lot of problems with that. Now,
you
some
can.
part of it can work, but you can't sit in a room with a group of people talking about how you're going to make the neighborhood association better. The only way you're gonna make the neighborhood association better is talk with the neighborhood association.
So you make the assumption.
Don't think that you can just build.
But hold on. Don't make the assumption that I haven't.
Well, I
And
know how to talk to me.
But don't make the assumption that I've talked to everybody either.
Okay. All right.
Okay?
I just
But
knew
one
that.
thing I do say, this right here is dying. One thing that I do say is that y'all half of them act like they don't understand that the white city council guy Hunter Williams went to Birmingham Times and he said it's time for us to rethink the 99 neighborhood and to really reform it.
Really?
Right?
Okay.
Really. No, I'm just saying, but understand. But in other words, he has to get permission to do that. He can't just go there. And he didn't go to the Vestavia newspaper. He didn't go to the Crestwood newspaper. He went to the black neighborhood paper to send the message to black folks that this is what we're going to do. Then the next thing you know, they're telling you that not only are they going to do that, now they're going to, instead of complaints being brought to all 99 neighborhoods, now you can only bring all your complaints to the city, to the 23 communities. It's like when Malcolm X criticized Martin King for going to the White House with Johnson. He said he sold out the movement. He said that Johnson offered Martin King some coffee, and he saw that the coffee was too hot, so he said, "You want some milk?" And he poured milk in it to cool it down. And then he looked at it and he saw that the coffee was still too black, so he poured some cream in it. And then he looked at it, he saw it was still too strong, and he put some sugar in it. And he said this right here. He said, what used to be strong has now become weak. What used to get you up in the morning is now putting you to sleep. You got to look at when folks are trying to kill. And you got to look at the fact that the neighborhoods are now associations are crumbling, but it's not all by accident.
Absolutely. It's by design.
I just want you to understand that they're tired of that. They don't want the people. So this is what I'm saying. If you have nonprofits and you have your own money, you can keep your voice independent. But as long as the people that feed you are the ones that control your voice, then our CAB will sell out our neighborhoods. Not all. Some of our CAB members will sell out, and some of our neighborhoods will sell out based upon the promise, because all neighborhoods are not treated equally. So how do you destroy something like that? You change the funding source. When they wouldn't fund me locally out the pond, I went for the lake. When they wouldn't fund me out the lake, I went to the ocean. I figured out how to bring in my own dollars to this city. That's how I got the $300 million since 2008, right? I had to figure it out. And if we keep doing what we've always done, you're going to be dead before long. And then the next person you're going to have in there is just as bad. The next person you have in there is going to be a Donald Trump. He's going to be a king. We've sold out little bit by little bit by little bit. I mean, it's sickening. Elections come around, and these folks have emasculated us, have done every kind of thing. You shouldn't have to beg to get your money back from the city.
And you know we're a HUD organization.
I did not know that you were under HUD. I was a HUD housing developer. I became that in 2008. But look, you shouldn't have to do that, brother.
That's right, we should.
But folks will attack me. During the pandemic, I want to make sure that people on West Side have food to eat. So I got the old Winn-Dixie, it was empty. And I said, we're going to give out food and feed our folks on the West Side. And then I drew a design for distribution is my thing, UPS, distribution. And I drew a thing for everybody in Birmingham to get fed, then everybody in Jefferson County. But the guy made it for you, didn't do it, so I fed everybody. By the end of the pandemic the last year, I fed everybody in Alabama. 45 tractor trailer loads a week, 1,660 boxes, and we delivered them all in 4 to 5 hours every week across the entire state. The USDA saw it. The only people that I had to fight with for doing that were people on our county commission, because they called them and said that if you give him all the food, then we're going to embarrass you in the newspaper, and we're going to embarrass you in the national press. They interfered. They did this, folks from here.
But see, but then again, it's just what you said about those nonprofits. If you don't take control of it yourself, and everybody got to rely on this money, that means if you're doing all the work, that means somebody nonprofit couldn't get no profit.
So this
sounds like a conflict of interest.
Well, they weren't nonprofits. They were politicians.
Huh?
Oh,
Politicians
okay.
get paid too now.
All right. But so
Politicians
this is what they
get paid
did. So the U.S. the federal government called me and did an audit on me. They said, plus they told me you're putting food in all the black communities across Alabama. Why is that? I said, I followed the data and I followed the history. When I put stuff in white communities, it doesn't always make it to the black communities. But when I put things in the black community, they feed everybody. The black, the white, and the Hispanic. And I could count on the black community to be equitable in their distribution.
Let's take a second to talk about the city council.
That brother there was, go ahead.
My question was, with everything that you're saying, and I keep hearing you talk about accountability.
Yes, sir.
The way that it's set up is, let's say, with the current regime, administration that's in, they made a lot of promises about a lot of things, and then when they got in the office, they did none of those things. So, but how do I hold somebody accountable from day one? It's not like a regular job. So if I'm working at Walmart and I don't stock this stuff properly, I immediately face accountability for my non-production.
You do.
So how do the citizens hold the administration accountable for the things that they're not doing? And you had me very intrigued with some of the numbers that you were putting out. And my question, when you were putting out the numbers, how does a regular citizen like me find that information out?
Good question. That's fair about that accountability.
I work in the nonprofit arena, and I study government because I want to help our community. So I look at those things, and then I hire people around me who look at those things. So I got about 10, 12 people that work full-time on building our communities, right? But I'll say this, man. Our politicians are different than anywhere else in the world here. I just want you to know that. I didn't watch the podcast, but the people that were politicians already when they came in here, they probably wanted to direct you a lot and tell you what you need to know, and that you need to let them educate you, and you need to do this right here, and this is what you need to do. But when I went in the room with the Peach people across over the mountain, Jabbo Wagner, the most powerful man in the Senate, when he came in that room, he said, you want white milk, chocolate milk, or buttermilk? And he took them orders, and he went and did it. Our politicians don't take no orders. They speak to you if they want to speak to you. They attack you in public if they want to attack you in public. And we don't even know that that's not normal. Why did I run for office? Let me answer your question. Last part. If I came in here today and I said, man, you got an open chair, I want to cut hair tomorrow, what you going to ask me?
Hey, you want to know about the qualification and skill?
Say what?
You want to know about your qualification and skill, man?
All right, let me tell you about my skill. I read a book and I studied, and I read 10 books and studied. Is that skill or is that knowledge?
Knowledge.
Will that help me?
You got to work with the skill.
Oh, skill comes through much use.
Yeah.
Why am I competing to do stuff with people right now? It's a tough race. who have never managed leaders, who have not worked with leaders successfully in Montgomery, have not worked with leaders successfully in Washington, D.C., and I got to compete. He got to compete with me to cut hair at the next level. I got knowledge. He has knowledge and skill. Why aren't we asking the question? Who you going to put in there? When they took the waterwork board, who stood up and said, Jabbo Wagner, we need to meet and let's talk about this before you introduce the bill? Who did that? Who did it? Nobody. Nobody. What? Nobody said, hold on, you worked down there with this dude and you nobody said nothing.
Well, it sounded like they might have said something. They just didn't say what.
I told you.
Might have needed been
Yeah.
said, but
But
someone said. Somebody did
Oh,
some
yeah.
talking.
Yeah, they did. They did some whispering back there, right?
Yeah.
But when it came time to talk, nobody. Hold on, bro. Hold on. Let me finish answering your question. I want to answer this, right? The folks that are in the race have not shown you that they can work across the board with leaders. Get at the table and make a request. Governor Ivey worked on my commission. Head of the House and Senate, all these different folk. I don't have scared Negro syndrome. I'm not going to chest up on you and then little boy when I get in the other rooms. You're not going to do it. When they took the waterworks and they had the first press conference from City Hall, who was in the forefront? Y'all remember? It was O'Quinn, the white dude. Mayor was standing in the back. How you gonna be the most powerful person and you're gonna be in the back at a time, but then when the marijuana bill came up, videos, op-eds, calling the governor out, all of that.
See about that reefer. He studied that water. He said he gets bottled water.
Is that what they call it now? We used to call it bud back then. What's it called now?
Reefer.
Reefer. Is it back to reefer again?
Well, then sometimes it's gas, depending on how young.
Oh,
the
yeah.
person is. Like, I'm kind of middle age. So
Okay.
it's reefer.
All right. Yeah, guys. So I'm sitting here saying, guys, come on. When are we going to say we deserve better? Why do our decisions show that we don't believe we deserve better? Why? If the dude told you, well, I understand the last time you had a choice between Woodson or Scales, and so I understand you went with Woodson. But for 4 years, I'm going to take care of your neighborhood, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then don't do it, and then he get another 4 years. Folks that have not demonstrated that they give a darn about you before they get into office, what make you think that they're going to care about you when they get there?
We can cuss for 10 too.
Hold on. And then, I'm a preacher,
we
man.
We cuss for 10. We cuss for 10.
All right.
15 minutes of cussing, man.
Listen. I usually have somebody with me that can help with that. All right?
Go ahead.
Listen.
Say it. Everything I know you want to say, I'm going to say it.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do it. All right. Oh, no. Because, all right. Listen. How many politicians that we've elected, City Hall, City Council, have you seen working after that?
And that's the basis of the...
Hold on. Let me finish. But here's the other question. How many of them did you see working before they got in? It doesn't count what you do with city money. That's your job. You don't get no bonuses for doing your job.
That's part of it.
Right? Walking, did you exercise this week? Walking to the car is not exercise. Right? And so we're going to hire folks that didn't care nothing about you and yours before you went. Before we put them in office. And they got there, I'm going to do this. Why haven't you done it? I remember saying to a young brother, I said, man, you over here, you working with these folks. When are you going to start getting back to the community? See, so here's my plan. When I make it, then I'm going to give back. Would you marry a woman that said, well, when you marry me, then I'm going to be faithful? Say what?
No.
But we'll elect a mayor, and we'll elect a city councilor, and we'll really consider electing the same mayor again who haven't been faithful to his word. And so somebody asked me, why would you submit yourself to that, Frank? I got track record of caring, and you didn't even have to pay me. I got track record of reinvesting. I feel like God up here. I've been faithful to you for generation after generation, and you still keep running after the devil. What the heck is wrong with you?
So this is my question.
All right, man. I'm sorry. I almost got to preach it, man. You done took me from one extreme over here to the other extreme over.
So,
I hear you, dog.
what would you say to the parishioners in the city, like myself, that will ask you, how could I put my faith in you and my trust in you and what you're saying? Because it's almost like being traumatized.
Yeah,
So,
bro. So I was.
how do I know when you get in office that you're not going to do me like the current administration did?
I got.
Barbershop Stories, the podcast, episode 139. We sit here with Frank Woodson and questions from our live studio audience. Now back to you, Frank.
We met. You shouldn't trust me. So that's why courtship becomes important. So campaigning should be like a courtship. You get a chance to look at me. You get a chance to see what I've already done, what my character is like. Far from a perfect man, perfect husband, perfect father, right? And if they knew where to look, they could find bigger bones to pull out, but they probably would never find them all. At some point, I made a decision that my repentance would become more renowned than my past failure. And I wanted to live a life and demonstrate that over a long period of time of caring and giving back. When you got people that are before you and you don't know you, then you start looking at the track record. You start looking at their experience. You look for people that they work with to see how they get along. And hopefully they'll have a couple haters along the way of people they didn't get with. Because if you're doing the right thing, you're going to piss some people off. Right? I think it's my daughters. I'm saying to them, I got 3 daughters. I said, one, you got to see if he loves his family. If a man don't love his family, if a man hate his mama, you're going to have hell to pay for it. And then you look at his friends, what he's done. You look at his classmates and people that have been around him. And then you look at how he spent his life. Is he a provider? Does he protect? Does he care about people? Have they demonstrated that? The role of the mayor, I remember I was meeting with Governor Ivey one time, and she said to me, you know, I really don't care what you're going to do for the big cities. I want to know what you're going to do for the city fathers of these small cities. I said, pardon me? She said, what you're going to do for the city fathers of the small city. I didn't know what city father was. I thought that was some type of, I don't know, you know. And Steve said, she's talking about the mayors. Do you know these mayors? Oh, I said, dang, city fathers, I you know, anyway. You don't know me, but consider what the job is. I think that the job is a city father who's going to protect, provide, and preserve. That's what we do. We accept responsibility. We clean it up. We don't take vacations. The family take vacation because our head is on a swivel, right? We the security at Disney World. Something about a father that understands that. He doesn't push away the blame. He doesn't have time to be emotional. We got to make it happen. So if we're talking about fathering a city, I thank God for mothers because our kids get a certain quality from their mothers that they don't get from us. But they're darn sure learn how to survive from us in any situation. You look at the job and you look at what you need at this time. I think we need strong leadership. I think somebody asked me about the schools. You were talking. You need strong leadership that will work with these corporate leaders and say, here's what I need you to do. I need you to invest. I want the city to take 1% of everything it has and put it towards dealing with the vulnerable in our community. I want to challenge the corporate community to put money in that resources too. And then I want to build up for free. And I've already started. I want to build up nonprofits across our city that are at the grassroots level. It's a $7 billion a year industry. You're in it or you're not. We don't do nonprofit. Then let all that $7 billion go over the mountain then. But if we can retain it here and pay folks good wages, good money wages, and let them eat and provide jobs in our community. A nonprofit is a small business.
Yeah.
Those folks making money.
A whole bunch of.
All right? When that money comes down, 15% stays in the nonprofit for administration. Another 15% stays in there for salary. 70% goes towards the mission. When money comes into the state of Alabama, they keep 15% for administration. They send the money down to the county. The county keeps 15% for activity delivery. That's why they do the project management of building firehouses and all that in the small town. And 70% goes. That is the system. It's a $7 billion a year industry here.
Working right.
And we don't even know what it is. So we're teaching people how to build it. Why? Because it's the nonprofits that come alongside of families. So when I worked for the Obama with the Obama administration, President Obama wanted to make Pratt City a $1 billion disaster recovery. It's the first one in the history of the country. I had an office in 417 North 20th Street, 2 offices. They brought me in to work with them for Birmingham. Had 3 brothers from Atlanta that were going to show me how to keep the money in the Pratt City community. You hear me? So they told me, all the money doesn't have to go to United Way, who's going to spread the money all over central Alabama. Pratt City was hit the worst, so if you help them set up a long-term recovery committee, then the money can come directly to them, bypassing
all the rigmarole.
On the other hand,
I go into there. The neighborhood officers can't figure out how I'm getting paid over there in Pratt. I'm not going to tell them because I'm that guy that's come to help. The politicians that were over there, state representatives, they couldn't figure out how I was getting paid. I go into Mount Moriah. I work with Pastor Williams, Bernard Williams, and I start setting up the system, making sure that everything was in place for the money that President Obama wanted to pour in Pratt City, Alabama. All of a sudden, then the city sending spies over. What's Frank trying to do? What's he trying to do? We get everything set up anyway. I said, I'm good. I don't want money, but there'll be enough money to pay positions, to do this, lay it out, and what are you going to get out of it? I'm not going to get anything out of it. We set it up, and then they blow it up. And the peace people come and they give the leader of the group I set up a position at the table and some free stuff. But the tens of millions that would have come through there are now going through there. And they might get 35 cents out of every dollar. They might get 50 cents out of every dollar from here. And those three brothers from Atlanta cried. Tears.
Yeah, I can see
Is
why.
this
It's a lot of
what
money.
we marched, fought, bled, and died for? I remember telling Bernard, Pastor Williams, I said that neighborhood officer, that state rep's gonna mess it up. I remember they went back and told him, because I said it in front of Hezekiah, and Hezekiah went back and told him, yeah, and she was nice enough to say, hey, I heard that you said this. I said, yeah, I meant it, because you messing it up. We setting it up. By now, Mayor Bell had brought me out in front of Pratt and made me over the recovery for the faith community and the nonprofit sector, and I'm out there and I'm working. These guys were just giving us the keys. Governor Bentley office called John. He called and said, I want to give you $1 million worth of lumber into Birmingham. Need you to bring it in. I said, okay, we got an armory over here. I go over there to the city and say, I need this armory over here. We want to donate $1 million worth of lumber. The city said, oh, no, well, we can't do that right now. So I sent $1 million worth of lumber to Tuscaloosa. They questioned it because they worry about me. Another $1 million comes. They send another $1 million worth of lumber.
But they funneled the money up out of him.
To Tuscaloosa. They dismantled the thing so bad that FEMA, they had the whole 417 North 20th building full of people. They left, went to Montgomery, and they made the decision to make Tuscaloosa the center of the disaster recovery. And that's how Tuscaloosa got rebuilt. And that's how Pratt City was left the way that it is. Where we have a park over there now that's half built.
Which is not feasible at all. When they built that walking park, we was telling them
They had to do something because they had gotten so much money.
Why are you building walking parks and when it rains it floods? You can't walk it.
It's flood zone.
Makes
Okay?
no sense.
So bro, I'm running for mayor because of the frustration. I'm running for mayor because over $500 million came into the Jefferson County Commission. The state treasurer, John, the state treasurer said, look, money's coming down. This is not secret, but here's how the money has to be spent. This is how you draw it down. He said, so make sure in your county it gets spread.
500 million.
If they would have just said we're going to put $100 million in every county district, we would have been okay. If we would have followed the data on who was the poorest of the poor, if it leads us to Mountain Brook, let's put the money over there. That would have been best. Because we're hurting more than others in our two districts. Our folks were not interested in going to the meetings on how to divvy that money out. Those other three districts had so much money. The folks from their district called me to try to figure out how to spend it.
Make the sidewalk light up, heated sidewalk.
Every daycare in our community could have been designated an emergency daycare for essential workers. that means that they would have gotten extra money, the good money, to clean those daycares every night. And they would have gotten a higher rate to open up specially for the folks that were essential workers and had to go to work. And we didn't get that. They had so much money that you had one little peach dude who went to the school system and said, I'll open up free daycares for all of your folks that have to work here if you just let me use the schools for free. Superintendent said no. So from my understanding, they wound up giving most of that money to UAB. But do you understand the impact that would have had in our community? That's one of the reasons, man, that I'm running for mayor. That the over 100 million came into the city, but we didn't use that as an opportunity to build capacity.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we initially started talking about education and information. Because we're under a white supremacy regime educational system, our people are educated to do exactly what they're doing here. And as far as information, the politicians should be coming into the communities on a regular basis, not having, like we have right now, the council meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning when the majority of people are at work. All right, so they need to be in the community on a regular, just like I said with the non-profits. They need to be in the community. They need to come into the barbershops and talking to the people, in the grocery store talking to the people. But, as a mayor, we need somebody to advocate for those type things, to make those changes, to open up the schools. The schools should be available. That's the heart of the community.
What do you mean the schools should be available?
Should be available to host whatever type of events.
They are.
That's going on. They're not.
No, they are. They have to by law.
No, they don't do it.
But you have to hold people accountable to follow the law and the policy. See, it only works if we hold them accountable.
Okay. Right. Is that something you would hold them accountable? And also,
So, bro, no. So I'm not the offended party. You're the offended party, right? And you go to them and you bring the policy up, and this is what it says: that it has to be available, and that it's by law. By insurance, and a school personnel person has to be there. You remember some years back we did the Ready Day One Back to School initiative, where we adopted every kid in public housing and around that area that needed help, about 5,000 kids. We did about 15, 16 sites across Birmingham, around, near or close to or in the housing project, and we provided shoes, socks, uniforms, 3 uniforms, book bags, supplies, and belts. And we put the local people in the forefront that would be there after we left. So they got the credit for everything. Right? So we did that. So we did in Gate City or Marks Village. We did it in there all over the place. But the schools allowed us to use the places, and we had to pay for the salary of the janitor for staying there. They can do it, but you have to hold them accountable.
So how do we enforce that? As citizens, how do we enforce that?
You don't take that principal's word for it. You go down to the administration office.
I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I literally been in situations myself where I'm down here and I'm talking about a policy that you're supposed to do, and when they go, well, the office closed.
Yeah.
So how do we?
Yeah.
How do we, as a normal citizen, be able to hold the administration not just accountable?
So you're talking about of the school system, right?
Enforce. Well, we're talking particularly about the school system, but I'm just talking about in general. So let's just, and I know it might be some details. And
No, it's okay.
Overview. Just with what happened with this House bill that has done what it's done with him. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I know that each state has a capability to manage it the way they see, per the farm bill. But isn't there still, as a state, you're not supposed to be able to make a law to counteract the federal law? But even if you do it as a citizen, and there's that say, I gotta fight this to the Supreme Court. How do we as citizens do that? Because what has happened just here in Birmingham and in
So what was the law that was made?
the House Bill resolution that made all hemp illegal. So the Farm Bill that was passed in 2018 made hemp legal on the federal level.
So basically, the state
You know what I'm
superseded.
saying? So, and I ran into this, having land and wanting to get into growing hemp, and called to try to figure out what I needed to do to be able to be in that position, and being told that we don't want, how did they say it? We don't want inexperienced growers. Well, my statement was nobody's been growing hemp, so everybody's inexperienced, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they use that technical term on you to make it into a farming issue,
And
right?
I get
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but as a normal citizen, when I come up against these policies that I know that you're supposed to be doing this
Yeah.
as the city,
Yeah.
how do I get that enforced?
Well, I tell you what, let me give it to you this way. Would you advocate for a recall bill
On
any politician in office who are not taking care of the business of the people? If the people, if
brother,
two-thirds of the people
I would
say,
let me
hey,
say
look,
this: I would sign a contract or whatever.
and of course, you have to go through the.
No. I'm telling you, I would sign a contract that says that after 12 months, if I have not kept my word of doing or making progress, significant progress, and what, I leave.
He resigned.
No, yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Bruh,
That's the first time I ever heard about it.
I'm not looking for a job. In the sense of
Yeah.
I need prestige, I need whatever. I've led at decent at high level.
But of
This
course, what we would need is to, and of course, it's easier said than done because we have to get with the Birmingham delegates.
so let me say this.
Take it to
Nothing
Montgomery
nothing
and
could
try to get
stop
that
me
over
from
there.
resigning. Nothing. But that's why you got to deal with people with the right character. And usually people like that, y'all don't want to run for public office. You don't want to run for mayor, city council. We don't want to do that kind of stuff. But when I see how much we left on it, I thought that I could do so much out here. And they would take care of the rest and look out. I made the assumption that they would look out for. That they would do what was best for us. I never thought that I would see what is happening now. I never thought our roads would get to the condition that they're in. And our roads don't have to be that way.
All right, Frank. I know we've been in for a minute, and I ain't rushing. I don't want you to think I'm rushing you now, but I do want to say this. Though. Is that, all right, let's just say, is 7 guys running? What, 7
9
people
now.
running? Oh, it's 9 now.
Yeah, now.
All right, so we have the incumbent and 8 other people that's running, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's just say for whatever reason, number 3 win. Would you, with your same ideas and the same push and business, be willing to say, hey, you know what, he or she, hey, let me work with you so we can at least move forward? And some of the visions of what's trying to be done, because it sounds like to me the goal is with 9 total, 8 running against an incumbent, all have the same idea on that either I don't really like what this guy doing or the administration, or I feel like I can take a division and take the city to another level. Are you willing to work with any of the other candidates that may win? Or even if you win and see what they platforms are, say, man, I kind of like what such and such is doing. Or vice versa. They won, so you know what? Let me go and take them ideas to them, and it can still work through that way as well. Would that be something that you would be considering doing?
Yeah, so look, I want to bring the best of the best to work for the city.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever you are, you got to be people of good character that are honest. not doing crooked side deals or whatever like that, and you're open for input from a team of leaders. I don't think that we have anybody else running that has ever worked with a team of leaders. So that means what happens is they wind up having to always be the smartest monkey on the tree. And so they have a hard time working with other people. So when I look at a lot of the other folks, or some of the other folks that are running, they don't have any experience in working well, playing well in the sandbox, taking advice and feedback, right? So I would be happy to. I don't see that they would do that. I don't see them hiring anyone that's smarter than they are. I don't see them working in a cooperative way. If I saw them that way, then I would be supporting them and not running.
That's warehouse.
No, I just honestly, I really would, because if they had leadership traits, skills, you can't be threatened by the people that are around you. If you have a police chief, why do you need a police czar? Right? So I look for the best and brightest. I think one of the things we do we've seen done in politics, when this mayor lose, everybody leave. This mayor lose, everybody leave. This mayor loses, everybody leaves. I would look back through people, some of the brightest of the brightest that did well. And employees will let you know who they are, by the way. And I bring back proven leaders, established leaders, proven leaders. Not somebody, not a novice. I bring back people that are proven leaders, that have proven and gained the confidence of the people that are there, if they were that good. And then I would recruit others from the outside if need be, because I want to win. I want a city to win, right? So it's not about promising Jim and Jack jobs and all of that. For what has to be done in Birmingham, I think this is kind of our last turn. This is our last turn.
Yeah, that was written too. Said it won't be a black mayor after 2029.
All right. And there's a good chance that if what happens, what I think is happening, is the way that it feels is that the city is being set up for collapse. And so certain things have been written in laws, like if the police department gets too low and the crime rate stays too high and those kind of things, then the state could have an intervention in taking over our police force. I think that the Waterworks Board was like the first step, and I think that the other boards are being lined up as well. My understanding is that nobody was surprised by the Waterworks Board being taken over. My understanding is that they were told that if you keep putting your friends, brother, in-laws, and outlaws on there, that we're going to take it over. Because you're just robbing us blind.
It's not even that.
No, I'm just saying my understanding, right? And so they did it. They could have done it any time. They've always had the majority in the House. It's not a surprise. I think for years, people from over the mountain have said that Birmingham has had too many employees. And when I heard them, I was in the room and I heard them say that, I'd ask, well, how many do they need to police? And how many do they need? Well, I'm not sure, but that's a lot of. Oh, okay. Right? And so what it seems like is that we have reduced that this current administration has listened to the people over the mountain, reduced our police force, reduced our street and sanitation, reduced our parks and recreation, right? And so you got a 2-3 man crew that maintains 16 pools. There used to be 15 men that did that. So that's why the pools are in disrepair. Our parks are on maintenance. If the number is right, you go from 2,300 to almost 500 employees in street and sanitation. Then in parks, parks and recreation never brought everybody back after the pandemic. Then that's why our parks look the way that they do. I don't know if you all have been in the parks, but they're deteriorating. There are benches that are falling apart. They're so porous in several of the parks. The rims are down. The nets are down.
Goalposts.
All
Now,
of
that's just some parts.
No, that's what I said. There are some parks that are that way,
That's why Homer Park is great.
right? See, I told you some folks get favoritism.
Yes, we
You
do.
know, where are you the
Well,
president? Oh, see
well,
what I'm saying? So I told you that there was some golden children in the place
Yeah, we
that
got
always
LED lights.
get
We
there.
do night games out there.
All right, and so there's always a few. But why should there be an exception?
It should.
Yeah, it should
It
be.
should.
Why should the crossplex not be done since 2002? And y'all don't say nothing about it. Why should you be told that they're going to start construction on the Family Fun Center? 5 times you've been told there's going to be 15 days or 10 days, and nothing has happened since 2002.
See, but that goes back with what?
Goes back to the resources are pulled out of the community.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I wish it was. I wish it was the old thing. We're sending the money out. I wish it was the old thing. We're taking care of the white people or the affluent people. That's not what it is this time. The money's sitting in the bank.
That's hard to even.
Hold on. The money's sitting in the bank. It's been approved, deposited into PNC. It says that, and it said that we're going to have a 20,000 square foot fun center. He said 20,000 square feet, and y'all didn't say nothing. Why didn't you say something when he told you 20,000 square feet? That's the size of one of our larger fire stations. And we're going to have a bowling alley in there, and we're going to have a skating rink in there, and we're going to have a jump park in there, and we're going to have a food court in there, and we're going to have a e-game thing in a 20,000 square foot building. And none of y'all said anything. And you wonder why they feel emboldened as politicians when they tell you something like that and nobody says anything, that all of that cannot fit in a 20,000 square foot building.
Now, hold up, Frank. Hold up. Let me go ahead. Let me
Now-
correct something. Hold up now.
Come on,
Let me
man.
correct something. A lot of people, they always assume that people don't say nothing. Going back to what those two gentlemen said,
I said that.
is that, all right, I'm going to give you an example. Birmingham, Alabama, been talking about building a dome long as I can remember.
Yes, sir.
I'm 45, so I remember this in the 90s. Then when I started hearing it, through the 2000s,
Yeah.
I remember they raised the tax for
That's
Larry
right.
Langton
1 cent.
now. 1 cent is supposed to be
Right.
a sunset tax, so I'm up on the politics. When the current mayor got in office, the people said they didn't want that stadium because there's no benefit to the city for the BJCC committed to collect all that money. We didn't want it, and he did it anyway. So just like him hollering that 20,000 square foot thing, even though everybody said, no, we don't want it, we won't, let's just say whatever, and the money's there to do it, if he do it anyway, what's the account for that? Wait 4 more years?
All right,
Wait,
so-
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I hear
You're
what
right,
you're saying,
you're right,
but people,
Let it go.
Get that on the
yeah, because you know, because think about it, you can vote a person in, but they voted that stadium through the council. They ain't asked nobody. So people can gripe all day, but then you sound like you complaining. But
True.
it was people saying no, and guess what? Through the council, what it was 5-4. It was something like that, and they passed it, and we paid $3 million a year for 30 years.
$90 million.
For a stadium that's open now. They could have put that shit at Lawson. You can't, cause I can't. They should put that shit at Lawson.
Renovated.
I had to look and say, did I say?
I read something somewhere.
That's crazy.
I overheard some
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
are on the inside say that they spent half the money to build it, and nobody knows what other half of the money is.
So,
Of course,
so,
I can believe this.
so I've heard that too.
So I ain't gonna say people don't say nothing, Frank. You know, they're just like when they talking about crime.
I appreciate it, man.
Nah.
I appreciate it.
Nah.
So y'all, you do.
Is it a problem with the, hiring contractors?
So
For that,
So really, man, when I come in here for a haircut, I just want the man to do his job. I don't want to figure out whether or not his razor blades were delivered on time, whether or not you
Just
sharpen your
wanna see it
blade.
happen.
I just want him to do his job.
One of us didn't know how to do it either.
Right?
Yeah.
So basically, the stuff that's happening in this city, especially for black communities, is intentional. Because for some reason why, every time black folk need something, let's do a study. Let me come out here and 7 folks stand around one spot and look at it like we ain't done. Like, man, this folks flying out of space and coming back on the same tank of gas. They know if they want to fix it, they can. So basically, it's just...
So crossplex is my pet peeve, bro. Reason why it's my pet peeve, because you lied to us. Reason why I know you can't put all that in a fire station size building. They know
You
it.
said 20,000 square feet.
20,000 square feet.
So and they said, and they won't come off of the lie, but what they got approved at the design review committee is 35,000 square feet, and what they put in the bank is $30 million, not 15. It's in the council minutes from the end of hold on. I'm just saying, it's in the council minutes. I read the minutes. Now, the other part is that it went to design review, but they didn't have an architect.
All these architects, I got a homeboy architect right now.
So all of a sudden, some friend of the guy from Atlanta, he gave it to him for free. And the council said, well, how can they do that? They questioned it, but they let it go. There's been no RFP. They're telling you they're going to start building in 15 days, but they didn't have a general contractor. Now they got a general contractor. When I went by there yesterday, and I see Hoare Construction up there. And they did put some black people on the picture because I said, how we gonna have a fun center in a black neighborhood and everybody on here is white? All the little kids playing out front. And the only thing black on the picture was the dog, right? And I thought that was
kind of. It first believe it wasn't intentional. They didn't want to. That was
right.
intentional.
Yeah, my wife said I shouldn't have said nothing about that. What?
Yes, you should.
But they're all.
Yes, you should.
Trevor, he said I should have. All right,
You
thank you,
should.
man.
And the reason why I say that is because I understand how politics go. It's a lot of different stuff, but I do believe you can say what you want. And I think
like
you can
that.
be vocal on this stuff too.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if you came in and said, look, man, my first 30 days and everybody saying what they want, you're going to hear a lot of that. But if you say, look, realistically, that can't be done in 30 days. It'll probably take more about 8 months. But we will get it done. And, you just be transparent with people. I think people would accept that better. If they say, look, this crossplex, there's no way we can just be honest with them. And I think you can say it. And even when people be talking about white folks and don't want to say white folks, no, white people really respect strong black leadership.
They really do.
But if you sell out to them, they like, oh, this nigga done, all right, my nigga. But if you 100, you can see it all the way around, and it's always been that way. If you stand strong, they're going to deal with you as a strong individual. If you act weak, they're going to deal with you as a disposable. We're going to get all the money. Then we're going to send you to prison.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the Fun Center at 5 Points West is going to be built before the Fun Center being built in Eastwood right now?
No, sir. Because what they said was that it would take.
We building the Fun Center now.
See, next you're going to tell me that they're building a little new shopping mall, a mini shopping mall over there on the Southtown Housing Project site. Since you want to play dirty. You want to play dirty? You want to hit me with that?
No.
Did you know about that one?
No, I know that's a part of the project.
It is.
Yeah,
It is. Did you know?
Project. The shopping's supposed to be involved in that, and a whole lot of amenities.
All right. So now all right. So man, I got to give you that one right there. So the Family Fun Center over here on the east side.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know where the movie theater used to be?
Yes.
Right there. Go look at it.
Okay. So it's kind of a plan to start closing some of the parks and put a Family Fun Center in each part of the city.
I don't know. There's an individual who's doing this, an Asian guy who's doing it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah. We got a lot of stuff over here.
If they start building today, according to the economic development guy, if they start building today, that Family Fun Center won't be ready until 2027. They said it would be 18 months. They built the amphitheater in 11 months.
Shit, it took that long? Because one day I passed by and seen the crane. A week later, they were talking about they got a week left. It seemed like it took that long.
I just like I said.
All right, we
brother
appreciate you
Elder.
stopping through.
Take it
Appreciate you
easy
stopping
now.
through.
Look, the city needs to work. We need good people. We need to hire the right people. We need people that aren't threatened by other folks and have demonstrated that. Because if your ego is small, you have a hard time working with folks. So when you look at people's track record in working with people, right? If you can't work with other strong leaders, then that's going to be a problem being mayor because everybody is going to be weaker than you and you're not going to trust them. So if I'm mayor, if we're talking about the streets, that's who's going to be in front of the camera. We talking about crime, police chief's going to be in front of the camera. We talking about parks and recreation, that's who's going to be in front of the camera. We're going to make sure we take care of our seniors. So we'll have a senior citizens office. We're going to have a real youth services department because we're the only people in the region of a decent sized city that doesn't have a multi-sports complex for our children.
Yeah.
We haven't built a soccer field. Somehow we let Major League Baseball get away. There's nothing you can tell me.
But you know, Brother Frank, me staying here all my life, none of this stuff is by accident.
No.
I think that, this is my opinion, if I'm wrong, please correct me. I think that Birmingham either turned down things or play stupid about things, or I'm gonna even say intentionally misled by things for the outside can grow.
Yeah.
And start this shit out because if all your people gotta go, if they just say 192,000 people gotta go to one fun zone. 192,000 people got to go to one mall or these certain restaurants when they just moved 2 miles outside the city limits. I think all that stuff is intentional. So sellouts, whether they black or white, that stuff is intentional because it just don't happen that way.
The fun center I was talking about, that fun center is not intended for the city of Birmingham. It's intended for east side only.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but what I'm saying, I ain't mad at a private person for doing this.
But you're talking about the one over in the west side, that's the only one.
But we had another candidate mention that saying it should be more. And I agree with that because the amount of people in the city, if I stay in Roebuck, I got to drive to 5 points to go and play. If I stay in 5 points, I wouldn't want to drive over here. Not saying that I would want those to be
but not at the expense of closing our community centers.
Not just that. Recently, the city of Birmingham knocked down our Shepherd Center over there at East Lake Park.
Did they tell you it was coming?
No, we
Did they announce
the
it?
impression that we was going to have a conversation about the Shepherd Center. And now those people are not going to the Shepherd Center. You know where our senior citizens are going over here on this side? They're going to Irondale for recreation.
All this stuff is intentional, man.
Our children are doing the same thing, brother. So now what happens is when you take the staff, you take the programming away from all of our community centers, and then the next thing, they're going to come and ask you which parks and recreation centers do you want open. And then next thing you know, they're going to start talking about selling them off, right? How come our kids can't have some? Do y'all realize my kids are the first generation of my family born with the right to vote? I want y'all to understand that. My children are the first kids in my family born with the right to vote. We're not that far off. And that means, and we letting swimming pools go. Y'all remember, there used to be a swimming pool in Inslee. They filled it with dirt and put concrete over it. And our kids don't get to enjoy swimming pools.
They've done that for Phillips.
Right? They did that in Phillips too. Mm-hmm. And then the same thing with the parks. Our kids had to stand on the outside of parks. They closed the Roebuck golf course for a while. Mm-hmm. And we just giving it away. Why can't we have green spaces? Why can't we maintain them for over 100 years? Why now?
Well, I mean, to me, once you find somebody who will follow your plan, you ride with them. And I think what goes on in black communities all around the country is not a mistake. It's not a coincidence.
It's
It's a pattern. And the unfortunate part is the people who are elected currently in all these different cities. I don't like to call nobody stupid, but you got to be stupid as a motherfucker if you can't see this.
Yeah.
You know that. But when we talk about it, people want to use technical terms or they want to use a word you don't feel like a fucking know to try to justify why it's happening when we can clearly see it. That's why when people talk about accountability, I hear exactly what you're saying. I just want to see somebody actually do it. Because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff in the city I know we wasn't with, but we got it.
Yeah.
And once you gave us this shit, we stuck with it. You can't undo that weak ass stadium. You can't undo like with people don't realize with the amphitheater. Like, you just think about this. It's common sense. If the city owns a stadium that holds 60,000 people, I know it's a few more than that, but let's just say 60,000 people. You own it, all the revenue, parking, concessions, all that shit. You charge nigga P if you want, but then you give a nigga $3 million a year for his shit to anticipate making some money off of it. You could have just said, well, shit, hey, that's cool. We'll give you $3 million, but this is what you got to do. It got to be incentives in there, man. Even like when the amphitheater, this fucker came back and said, hey, I know you gave me a little change, but I'm running short over, but I need some more. If you can't bid it, fuck it. Sell it off.
So,
just like I would have two if I'm investing it
the
out.
parking lot for $1.
Yeah, at the
That's
amphitheater.
crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know if you meant to say this or not, but we put in 51% of the money. A lot of people say it's more because of money missing, that they inflated it so that 90 million wouldn't look too high.
Yeah.
And we get zero from parking, zero money from it at all.
Oh, I know it.
We put in 70% of the money in the amphitheater.
It's crazy.
They're saying Birmingham put $5 million in.
No, they put more.
So I looked at it. And so I think one of the commissioners, Du Bois, got on the radio when I was on there and said the city put in $5 million, county put in $5 million, Live Nation put in $5 million, and the Civic Center put in $5 million. He said, I said, well, where the other $30 million come from? Oh, the bond paid for it. Like we idiots, right?
I told you, that same shit.
Oh, it's gonna get worse. Hold on.
Them folks need to start
You
getting
really
whooped,
talking
man.
for me for real?
No, all that voting and shit. It's
All right.
time for some hand whooping.
So let me tell you about the 30. Let me tell you. All right.
That voting shit.
You want to hear the 30 million?
All right, go ahead.
Hear the 30 million.
Pardon me, people. I don't cuss normally.
So they don't just give you a bond. Bond has to be backed by a revenue stream. What is the revenue stream? The revenue stream is the lodging tax that the city of Birmingham passed, where the money comes to the city of Birmingham. They take the money from the city of Birmingham, give it to his brother-in-law over here at the Convention and Visitor Bureau, and they're saying we'll back the bond with that money. Whose money is it? It's our money.
We made up pay for it.
Well, that means that we put in $35 million. That's 70% of the cost.
Yep.
How much revenue we get?
Zero.
And still,
Name it right.
Get in there.
We're not
And so-
talking about misappropriation and like
Wow.
with this water board thing, because I deal with certain people that work on certain projects. How you take a machine on the ground, go halfway under the Cahaba that costs you $1 million to have to leave. That's $1 million of our money.
Yeah.
You just throw it away
With no bond.
with no nothing.
Well, a minimum bond, because
Yeah.
the bond's supposed to pay for that. I still don't see how we paying that shit.
But how do you even start that?
Bro.
And you get halfway, and the reason you gotta leave it because you have no permits to dig out under the Cahaba.
Every land
So
owner
how did
should
that
be
even
free.
transpire or begin unless you have a plan and did that on purpose?
But that was the same way that big development over off of Oxmoor. They didn't have no access to the property that they sold for the major development. How do you do that? That's poor management. So the city's being misled. So we got to have somebody that can lead. And then management, speed, logistics, allocation, resources, being able to do that. You got to have that. I'm just real, man. I believe that I'm the best person at this time for this job, to be honest. I'm not bought. I'm not owned. I want to see our community do well. One city, one experience. Let me tell you how bad it is. I started going up to people and just saying to them, I'm not going to make you no promises. I'm not going to do you no favors. I'm not going to give you no hookup. I'm just going to take care of you the way we take care of Crestwood, the way we take care of Avondale.
Do your job.
The way, right.
That's it.
You know what they said to me? If you do that, you got my vote. I'm going to manage the city well. Part of management, somebody said something about not having the inspectors earlier, right? When the mayor says I put in $15 million for roads this year, that's what he put in last year and the year before. And it didn't work. So if you tell me you're going to do the same thing again this year, we're going to have torn up roads again. Most cities, the way that it works is if a utility company makes 3 cuts on the road, on their span, they have to repave the whole road, that whole section.
I didn't know that.
Utility company.
Yeah, because you know what? We pave the road. So they do a good job paving the road. But then utility company, gas, whatever, they come in and they cut. That tears up the integrity of that. And so this thing starts sinking. That's why and this is happening all over the city.
But I've seen them repaired, right? Oh, they can
Oh,
repair
here we
it,
go.
right.
Here we go. Where do you see it at?
I stay in East Lake Estates,
Yes.
behind the Conoco, up the street from Rodriguez now. And I've seen them bust up the street, half-ass pave it, going on. But I've also been in Crestwood or in certain areas, even just downtown. Not even just that. Well, I guess they feel like we got to do this right. And them fuckers, they'll block off a whole street and cut, and they're going to do it right. Because it's bullshit, because even with inspectors, if I came out there and did that concrete, first of all, hey man, where your permit? So when they come out there and look, if it's not right, give it a permit. Well, what the inspector do? You ain't even pack this, or whatever they gonna say that you didn't read the specs. So when the utility companies and stuff get away with it, is intentional. Every community, they don't do that the same, whether it's black or white workers. I know this. No.
Sometimes you had a bump in the road. Yeah, you know that? Because they don't use the same. So sometimes they build it up because it's going to settle. And we don't want to have to come back. That means that you're going to ride down, you hit that bump, right? And then, in fact, over my building over there off Jefferson Avenue, the bump was so high, we had to call them to come back. Because it was a whole big, it was higher than a speed bump.
Of Green Springs, it's 3 of them that
Right.
they like speed bumps.
So we know that.
Yep.
But what happens sometimes, see, we used to have some code. And the code was this, was that even if we out here drinking Coca-Colas and root beer, and he's the inspector and he said, you know, you have to go over there and straighten up that old bulls that you did over here on this street. You got to go do that. He wasn't trying to be that cool with me because the people matter. We got to have people that have demonstrated that they care about people.
That's right.
I've given the last 20 years of my life working for us. And I've been successful. Worked with 3 presidential administrations, 3 gubernatorial. When it came to Blueprint Birmingham, the economic development strategy for the Birmingham, I met every month with corporate leaders, all these folks who have done all kinds of stuff, the heads of these universities, in a couple of cities, but Birmingham wasn't at the table. And we came up with a plan for the economic development prosperity of the area. And in the 11th and a half hour, we took out 2 sections. One was for small businesses, and the other one was for neighborhoods. Go ahead and say it. It's what?
Right.
It's intentional.
Hey, be intentional, man. This stuff don't just happen. Well, that's what's happening,
So we
man.
took that out. Your neighborhoods, you weren't going to be on this region's mind anymore. Small businesses, you weren't going to be on this region's mind anymore. So that's why I started the small business entity, Central Alabama Redevelopment Line. I just took the plan that says this is how you grow small businesses and create jobs in our community to make sure our folks can work where they live. I just did it, and I didn't need an office, and I didn't need pay. It's just gotten to the point when I saw so much money come through here that could have transformed our community from the pandemic. I saw so much come through, and I just said, I can't take it anymore. I've got to offer myself up to serve. Not to talk down to you, not to talk at you, but to serve. Simply say, what do you need? And not lecture you like you're a little doggone child or something. Let me school you to the bill. Change the bill. If I'm telling you it's not working, then change it. You're a legislator. Don't explain to me the way things are. You all made it that way.
Yeah,
just like you made it this way, you can make it that way.
Yes, that's
Preach,
true.
Frank.
All right? And so this is who I am. I'm just this way right here. And that's why they have a hard time. So could I work with them? I called them out about the money with the pandemic. They're not gonna want to work with me.
Well, that's good.
I'll just tell you. I called it out because the state got $2 billion in, and our legislators didn't let us know anything. They didn't let us know that every small business could have gotten $20,000 3 times. I told as many people as I could. Just a $20,000 grant. Non-profit, for-profit, $20,000.
State of Alabama trying to get me to pay back $3,900 when they
Right.
close us down.
Right.
Straight up.
They're giving it back.
I'm battling that
The
now.
SBA, they're giving them all that other stuff to, all them loans. They forgave them all.
Big money transfer.
Our folks didn't tell us. So to me, that's criminal. If money is here, there could be a blessing. And my brother was saying, I know about white supremacy, man, but this time it was Scooter.
This time it wasn't no white supremacy. The black
I
supremacy.
guess.
You know what I was talking about then?
And that's where we are, guys.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a meritorious monumentation.
Meritorious manumission.
Wow. So here's what I'm saying. Birmingham can work. We'll have to do things differently. People will be uncomfortable. We'll have to hold people accountable. If you didn't do the job, if you never showed that you cared about us, y'all do understand when they put all the money in all these agencies at the state that they don't spend it all in that agency. It goes back out. And they send it to their small towns. So when they put the money in the insurance company, but it was passed by the legislature, how come y'all didn't come back and tell us that they put a thing in this past year where they put tens of millions of dollars in this account, and that if your roof was in pretty good repair, then you could request a free $10,000 strengthening of your roof from the insurance agency. So what we do, I call down the governor's office, put 3 of our organizations on that resiliency, Alabama Resiliency Council, and we are only flies in the buttermilk. We send one back and say, I need you to be a little closer so we can find out the policy. Here was the policy. It's first come, first serve. They smiling at each other. When does it open up? The first day of every quarter. They smiling at each other.
I done called the city 100 times.
Hold on. No, so this thing, so check this out.
Program ain't never
You don't,
started.
so you don't know. So then guess what happens? Well, what time does the phone line open up? 12:01 a.m. What happens at 9 o'clock by the time you call for Big Mom?
Done.
Is what?
It's already
Yeah.
gone.
Everything's over. I have that a lot in my neighborhood association. They tell us about it and they say, look, get your elders together and tell them about this, that we got this. We everybody get hopeful about it. You call down there at City Hall and just get the rudest person that you can find, that they can find to get on the telephone. You would think City Hall will learn some kind of etiquette about answering a telephone, but they don't. They talk to our elderly people, and then that's when they lean on neighborhood officers. They say, well, look, I don't want to call down there. you call down there. The reason why they don't, our neighbors don't want to call down there is because how they are treated. We are treated badly here in this city.
But there's and from my opinion, there's a mentality with the city and with the city employees.
It is.
They don't feel as if they are servants for us. They feel as if they're gatekeepers for things we need. And if you come down here and I'm having a bad day,
They reflect the
That's
leadership,
started with
brother.
Larry Langford.
you know,
They reflect the leadership.
yeah.
All right.
Of course they are.
That's about.
It started with Larry Langford.
So I've always said that the city and the state treat the citizens more as a source of income than they do as citizens.
Well, let me say that. Not everywhere.
Not in all towns, huh?
Not everywhere. It's this Birmingham piece, and our love is killing us because we want our young people to do well. I want our current mayor to do well. I want our sisters that are in here and there. I want them to do well. But something happens. They get that kiss of the Spider-Man, and they think that they are in a whole nother class now. All of a sudden, they're able to live. They're able to move out of the hood, and so a lot of them still they move on out to the community and the neighborhood, and they just forget, you know. And so that piece right there is the problem, because we all think it's race, but a lot of times it's class. And so when you give them an opportunity to move outside of into what they think is another class, then they lose their mind. And they make themselves a promise. I'll never be poor again. And I had to realize something, that when I run for office against these folks like this right here, it's not the same value proposition. I go back to work next week. They go back to where they were. And a dying man will grab a hold of a razor sharp sword to keep him drowning. And they will hurt you, they will malign you, because I'll never be poor again. They swear that oath. And that's what they get. So when we say that they're, and they know that. Arthur Shores, I worked for him for 2 years. Drove him around. And he say every week, you can't send a lunch by a hungry boy. And I couldn't figure out why he keeps saying that. It's been 2.5 years, and he's still telling me that 3 times a month. You can't send a lunch by a hungry boy. And because folk like us don't go down there, then we wind up sending people that are hungry. People that hadn't had real job experience, never really managed a budget. People who we really think are good people and done good work and, you know, that kind of things that care. And when they get there, then now they want to lecture us. I don't understand why somebody that works for me is going to lecture me. I need you to try to understand what I want and hear me out, and then see how you're going to bring it. We're going to take the economic development department and we're going to turn it inside out. Instead of figuring out a way to tell you why you count out, why you didn't make it, why you don't qualify, why you didn't get this, we're going to work with you to help you put what you need in place so that you can get the opportunity. You know who did that for me? Bob Rodney. I was on the State Democratic Executive Committee. I was on the ADC Executive Committee down there with Joe Reed. I was a part of the SCLC. And what this brother said was true. That if you stand 10 toes down on principle and your conviction, people, they'll respect you. He was a Republican. I was a Democrat in all these ages. And Adeka said he wanted to give me $2 million. Adeka said, well, they don't have the capacity. He told the leadership of Adeka will drive up there and help them build it. And they help us build the capacity. I said, government can do that? That's what ruined me.
A lot of this stuff can happen.
Government can do that?
They do everything else.
I needed some money for a project. They got one of the leaders in Montgomery said, Well, just send me what it is. Don't make it long. Maybe a half a page and double space. Send it.
Paragraph. Old school. Oh, yeah.
I said, what? When they want to help you, they can help you.
Yep.
They give these black nonprofits around here $10,000 and they lose their doggone minds like they own you. And they don't think anything. Joe and Debs go down there. They've been trying to get a facade grant. Great food. They can't get it. I say, I'm going downtown. I go downtown. They're giving the little oyster house place down there in Lakeview. No problem. $50,000. Giving the YMCA over there in East. Where is it? No, the one over here.
On the south side?
East.
No,
Oh, yeah.
Roebuck.
Roebuck.
Yeah.
Gave them another $1 million.
Yeah.
They got them building houses now. They got
Yeah,
millions
yeah,
to build
yeah.
houses.
Yeah.
But we got contractors. We got black contractors can't get a contract.
With black folks in there.
We built 70% of that thing. We put in 70% of the upfront money on the little amphitheater, and we don't call no shots.
That's crazy.
We don't
That's
call.
criminal.
We put $90 million into. So that's why the rumor is we put in $90 million, so not to make it look too bad that they upped the price of what it costs to build and left us only at 51%. But even with 51%, we should have had a portion of something. When you pay the majority, maybe you might be old enough to remember we ain't had the money to buy our own whole pop, so we chip in and we flip to see who got to drink the top half. And make sure they ain't try to spit in it, right? Man, now don't be slobbing on it.
Don't let it touch you.
Right.
I grew up in Collegeville. We didn't do that.
All right. Oh, Lord have mercy. Yeah, okay. Hey, look. And so, but the one who put in the most usually went first, except in Birmingham. I believe that it's a part of wanting this city to collapse, to create a regional government. I'm not saying I'm against the regional government. Here's what I am saying. If we have one, we need to decide.
Yeah, 'cause you
But don't booby trap us. All right, you get what I'm saying? Don't sabotage us. You make the value proposition for how we'll be respected. But then they do this waterwork thing, and they show you how they do it. You 40%, you get 20% of the seats.
No, they got some bad math.
It's real bad math.
Them jokers let 'em do
Your math, that math ain't math. Look, guys, if we're going to keep our city, we got to make a decision. Are we going to keep it? We got to make a decision who in there is going to be able to work when necessary with that governor down there and don't come up with that scared Negro syndrome. I'm not talking about chesting up in the street or talking in my masculine voice, that kind of deal. I ain't talking about none of that stuff. I'm talking about being able to go in there and do the deal, to work with these corporate folks. I'm the only one that's worked with the corporate people. I'm the only one that's worked with the leadership of Montgomery, Alabama. In Montgomery, Alabama. No one else has worked with that leadership. This mayor hadn't even met with the whole Jefferson County delegation that come up with a legislative agenda. You don't like me. I don't care if he like me or not. If he going down to Montgomery to fight for me, we gonna meet.
We gotta make sense, at least for the people, for what you was elected to do.
Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't like him because his beard look better than mine. What?
Now point down.
Well, you got to bring that up.
We gotta point down. Since you're talking,
Right. So look, guys, you got to have mature leadership.
Okay.
You look at the energy. Who's going to respect your leader? You're going to send somebody to represent this city. You better send somebody that people are going to respect.
That's true.
You better send someone that demands respect and that shows that they're committed. I didn't move out of the west side. Mother folks moved out of the west side. Others moved all the way out the city. And now they're coming back to run for mayor, right? Others move away from the west. How you going to run from your people? How you going to do that? Everybody was so proud when the mayor moved in next to William Bell. Now he's over 2 blocks from Mount Brook. He ought to be able to do well, shouldn't he? Really? You're mayor. And you do better now than then. Why you leave at the first chance you get? And we got to choose. And I got to compete against that. And I got to be asked, why you more qualified than that? Because I've demonstrated, without a title, without pay, that I care about us and that I'm going to invest in us. And guess what? You might not elect me, but I'm still going to invest in us. I could only do more if I was mayor. I could only create more opportunities for black businesses if I'm mayor. I can only say to you, and just be honest with you, let's sit down, get in a room, and figure out how to build the neighborhood association to where this happens or not. City used to send out a newsletter. We got all the phone numbers. Why can't we do a robocall to let people know that this is what's going on and this is the agenda that's going on? Why can't we put a nonprofit with you guys so that you have something in your districts to fund the things that you really want to do so that you won't be as reliant upon the city? I'm not challenged by your success, Mr. Neighborhood President. What will happen if you are able to do what you do without me now? I'll have to respect you.
We do it.
And I would have to work with you in a respectful manner. Right?
You talk about these different organizations, nonprofits.
Uh-huh.
A lot of those people, they get paid.
They what?
A lot of those people get paid
Yes.
for those nonprofits.
We the only ones that were at the table volunteering.
And the neighborhood association has stood the test of time.
It has.
You're not getting paid a dime.
No, sir, you're not.
And we some of the hardest workers
Yes,
inside the city limits of Birmingham. And we've been proving that our worth, our value, time and time again for many and many years.
Yeah.
And then $2,000 a year. And I'm not just talking about the president, there were people before him. It's just me personally.
Yes.
Me personally, I would rather deal with a person poor in finances than to deal with these folks poor in character. And that's who we're dealing with now.
Yes.
Poor in character. When we talk about the poor, it's going to be with us always. We can look what poor is really
In the character.
we talking about when a person is poor.
Yeah.
Yep. What else was happening, man? I know
Man, I
it's
appreciate
getting
it.
late.
It
It's
is.
getting late. I got to
It's
cut
getting
my hair
late.
tomorrow.
I gotta get my hair cut
I
in
gotta
the
cut
morning.
in. You
Yes,
gotta
sir.
come on up.
And my wife has sent me a message, man.
Uh-oh.
You still there?
I didn't say somebody paying back
But
was looking in
on
here.
Facebook.
They was
Well,
driving straight
let me
and
say
looking
this.
in the
I
door.
wanted to take the time and just have a conversation.
Hey,
I
we
was hoping
appreciate
that
it.
that's what it would be. This is just who I am. Sometimes my voice too deep. They don't like my tone or whatever like that. I'm not afraid to talk truth to power. I'm not. Because people made me learn how to eat without them. Remember Alabama Power asked me one time, how come you never asked us for any money for your nonprofit? I said, truthfully, I said I never needed it. And they were like, oh. Because it wasn't my goal that would be a hustle.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? I wanted to help folks. And that's what I did, guys. I could do so much more. Just with one term as mayor. To set things in place. To bring the best and the brightest into the system to work. To set up systems so that our neighborhood association, that it thrives. And that you have resources and funding that comes from a diversity of places so that you're not dependent upon me as your mayor. And you don't have to kowtow to me. Because whether I'm mayor next time or not, those streams of income, that's called freedom. I want to make you free without me. Everybody I work with, I'm looking for men and women who can take over. You don't have to compete with me. So I don't sword fight. I'm trying to give you this company, this organization, this position. When we bring those folks in that are proven leaders, the first thing they're going to do is begin to mentor that next generation of leaders, not hold them down. Teach them everything they know, and then we move aside. That's the way that a community gets strong, and we get the best and the brightest in there. We do it with strength and honor, dignity,
That's right.
and honesty. That's the way we do it. These folks have lied to us. These folks have stolen from us, from our babies. The poorest demographic in Birmingham, Alabama, is the 15-year-old black girl. We missing it. How you gonna have a drive for tampons and Kotex? What will a 15-year-old girl do? She'll grab a hold of a razor-sharp sword to keep from drowning. We gotta strengthen our families. We gotta rebuild family. And I'm not just talking about the folks in the house, our families. We gotta go get our people.
All right.
We gotta help provide jobs and be concerned about building the economies of the families. So that's why I want to increase the nonprofit, because that creates a circle of intervention. When that happens, the schools begin to focus on education instead of sneaking washing machines in the closets in the schools. They got a clothing store in the closets of schools where they're washing kids' clothes who come to school dirty. I want to make sure, as mayor, that no kid in Birmingham comes to school hungry or goes to school at night hungry. How can you do that? I studied policy. Birmingham could serve every child in every neighborhood a hot dinner between the age of 4 and 18 years of age, if somebody pushes them to do what the policy allows them to do. The policy now allows that right now every kid in Birmingham qualifies for free lunch, for breakfast and dinner, because we hit that 82% mark. So all kids can eat free. Because of that, we qualify for the dinner program. Pelham has it. That means because the school food program is not a feeding program, it's not a school program, it's a USDA program. That's the federal programs. And it's based off of the numbers in that community. So that's why any kid can come for dinner, back up there and eat free. And the mother can pay, you know what it is when you go to school, you pay your $22.75 or whatever for the meal with the kids. Guys, if I could do that, where no kid has to go to bed hungry, or come to school not having to eat, no athlete has to practice with no food at home. That's the legacy I want our generation to have as men, that we took care of ours.
Yeah.
No excuses. No trying to explain, see, sometime it just happened. We just get at it.
Right.
Thank you for your time.
Oh yeah, we appreciate you, man. You appreciate it, man. You got me stuck to the seat, man. I ain't gonna lie. Not just because we've been here for a while, it's because there's been some great information. And it's a lot of things that honestly I just simply didn't know. Right. You know, a lot of people won't admit that, but there was some things that I heard you say like, well, wow, I didn't know that. Right. You know, there's a lot of stuff I do know, but I'm like, hey, we just sit back, listen. I'm sure everybody who was in here tonight enjoyed themselves from being able to answer the questions and being able to put out good information. So before we leave, do you have a website that people can go and view your platform or your Facebook or your Instagram or whoever you want to send them?
My
Or
website
even call you.
is frankwoodson.com. It's frankwoodson.com. If you Google, if you look at Frank Woodson, if you put that in, you'll see a lot of the work I've done. A lot of it's been through Mission, Alabama, Central Alabama Redevelopment Alliance, Operation Forum, Ready Day One, the Alabama College and Career Access Program. I've looked for things to bridge the gaps for our kids. But the biggest gap that needs to be filled is in City Hall to make sure this city works for all of us. We know what to do. A lot of it is just management. Another part is leadership. Who do you want to go into the board? You line up all of the candidates that are up there. How many have worked with the leadership of Montgomery? How many have worked with the leadership of Birmingham, the corporations and the like? All of them, I have. How many of them have worked with presidential administrations and initiatives that come into the community? You have to be able to negotiate. If our money is in Montgomery, then we're going to have to deal with Meemaw.
You got that right, buddy.
Over my dead body, she
I
said,
tell you
ain't
what,
gonna let
Frank,
unions come in here.
I like your Frank and shit, but that money, man, shit.
Right.
How much? I tell you what, give you half.
And look,
Or Meemaw.
you know,
That's a funny one.
and then you got to deal with the red man in D.C. But it,
All
but-
unworkable though.
but as
All unworkable.
as
God
Cat
be-
Williams said, you go to if you work with the red man, you gotta protect you. Gotta protect you.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah, stand strong. It'll be all right.
It'll be all right.
Be all right. Just stand strong. With God be alive, man.
What does a man do? If our grandfathers can say yes, sir, to a 12-year-old white boy walking down the street in order to make it back home, to push his pride down, make sure that he's there for your family. When we can't take nothing, I gotta work with Donald Trump, and that's what we're gonna do.
Let me tell you something about how important that is. Now that was called survival. You know, that he had to
Yes, sir.
say yes, sir, to the 12-year-old white boy.
Yes,
So,
sir.
but let me tell you how important that father is being in the house. Do you know that every quarterback that ever played, that ever won a Super Bowl grew up with a father or a father figure? Not 90%. Every Super Bowl quarterback that won the Super Bowl, every quarterback that won the Super Bowl had a father figure in his life. That's how important fathers are. You can figure that out.
And let me say this: babies have been born out of wedlock since the beginning of time.
And that's weak. That's
Right.
weak. It's a weak family.
It
When
is.
that
But
structure
let me
is
but
not
let me
there.
but let me say this: you know what the grandfathers used to do? They used to adopt them kids to make
Well,
sure
yeah.
they had a father figure,
Needed. It's very
Right.
important.
Make a difference.
right? And they did that
My own
in the
personal
church,
history,
huh?
So from my own personal history, and my grandfather had 15 children, and each of his children had at least 3 children. And all of us, at some point in some time, can live with my grandfather.
To make sure that you had that father figure in your life because it's that important,
Is that's the way you win Super Bowl.
right?
All right.
Right,
All
and
right.
that by
Now,
building
We
family.
finna close it out.
Close it out.
Finna close it out now.
Well, look, I need this to be a silent offering, brothers. I don't want to hear no change. Where the offering plate, man? We need this to be a silent offering.
One more pepper
Donate
for the
at frankwoodson.com. Look, I need your help. I don't have the big backers that they have, but I need your help. By God's grace, I'll get there. With your help, we'll make it happen.
That's what's happening. This has been a great episode of Barbershop Stories, the podcast, episode 139. It was a little lengthy, but it's a worth watch. I
Check
promise
out
you
every
that.
second of
We
it.
promise you that. It's a worth watch. Now, ain't Frank gonna have to stop up by your shelf or something. Now you made me miss the food truck and everything. No, just kidding with you, funny. But no, I appreciate y'all. Appreciate Z-Lens Media for recording us tonight and sitting here with us. Appreciate Robert Walker, District 5 candidate. He'll be coming up.
Oh, that's
soon.
Robert Walker.
Yeah, that's Robert Walker.
Wow.
Appreciate Antonio Bay Hall for coming on in, and appreciate Thelma Danny Kapuki, a.k.a. Mr. Bennett, the house man, coming on through. And I am comedic narrator, haircut slang minute making that gentleman over there on the end here.
Hey, it's no-nos again, man. We enjoyed Brother Frank tonight, man, and that idea about the non-profits, man, coming in and the taboo stuff that we got going on around it. But we see that model working for a lot of other groups out here.
Yes, sir. 7 billion
If you're
strong.
paying attention, you see that model working for a lot of other groups out here. Not saying that every non-profit is
That's right.
truthful and honest and working, but we see that model working.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great idea, man, personally.
Yeah.
Just to highlight
Some
a
of them
point.
come to take advantage.
Just to
of it.
highlight
Yeah,
it.
of
Oh, yeah.
course, of course.
Ours
Not
will come.
all
But
of
we
them.
know it can work.
That's
You know,
right.
we know it can work.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
Great
that's
model.
what's happening. Hey, we out. We'll see y'all next week with Brian K. Rice.
Yes, sir. Brother Brian,
Appreciate
Yeah.
it, brother.
enjoyed that again, man.
Yeah, for
Man,
real, man.
Hey,
likewise.
learned a whole lot.
Yeah.
Straight up, man.
Appreciate you,
Hold it for you.
And the old mill's up on that one.
All
right.
Picture with you. Yeah, man.